Good evening, America. I'm Gary Franchi, and this is the Raw Feed. Tonight, we're witnessing history unfold on day 91 of Donald Trump's historic second term, a presidency that has the deep state scrambling as their decades-long control mechanisms can crumble in real time. What we're covering tonight is so explosive, so fundamentally important to understanding the battle for America's soul, that the mainstream media won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And they can't stand that I'm now in the room to ask the questions they're too afraid to ask. That's right, Ivory Hecker has recently reported, I have become the first independent journalist with over 2 million YouTube subscribers to officially be credentialed in the White House press corps. The establishment media members were visibly uncomfortable with a YouTuber in their midst. They sneered, they whispered, but they couldn't stop us from bringing you the truth. And speaking of truth, we've got an incredible feature on our show where we interact directly with you, our viewers, in the live chat. And speaking of live, we have a live shot of the White House right now. That's right. Your insights, your questions, they are welcome on this show, and they are essential to the broadcast. You can send it in through the super chats. And remember to tell your friends, tell your family. We're streaming live on YouTube to millions worldwide, plus Rumble and X. So make sure you follow us on those platforms as well, because when they inevitably try to silence us here, you know where to find the truth. In between segments, we will be reading your super chats and Rumble rants, featuring them on screen for the world to see. That's right, your voice, your support front and center. And speaking of support, this show exists because of patriots like you who believe in our mission. The links to donate are in the description. Every dollar helps us continue bringing you the truth they don't want you to hear. And tonight's lineup is absolutely explosive. First, we'll reveal how Trump's second term has the deep state in panic mode as one of his most fiercest critics makes a stunning admission that changes everything. Then we'll explore the extraordinary connection between Pope Francis' sudden death and Klaus Schwab's unexpected resignation happening on the same day as the Vatican. Ancient Vatican prophecy takes on new significance, and Secretary Marco Rubio has pulled back the curtain on dramatic developments inside American foreign policy that could reshape multiple global conflicts simultaneously. We've also got exclusive details about the powerful alliance between Elon Musk and Donald Trump that has corrupt bureaucrats desperately trying to stop what is coming. And you won't believe what this Democrat senator did. Yeah, he flew to El Salvador on your tax dollars while a foreign president outmaneuvered him on the world stage in an embarrassing diplomatic chess match. We'll expose how independent media is rising to fill the gap as corporate press crumbles, and why they are absolutely terrified of voices like ours asking real questions in the briefing room. And finally, the liberal media meltdown you won't see anywhere else. Even their own icons are breaking ranks as the woke media agenda implodes. And don't forget, we also have our merch shop at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, linked below, where you can get exclusive Next News swag to show off your favorite news source. And we've also launched our YouTube channel memberships with exclusive perks at different levels. Support the channel and receive acknowledgement in the chat room, plus exclusive access to the Next News team, behind-the-scenes video, and Discord 24/7 chat with our members. Remember, super chats get priority between segments. Your support's what keeps us going in this fight for truth. So grab some popcorn, America. Tonight, we pull back the curtain on the greatest political and spiritual battle of our time. The Raw Feed starts now, and let's welcome you to the show. Big D Trump in the house. We got John Dale, Resto Guy, Sharon Gentry, Ari's Vixen, R. Boyd. Everyone is here. What is up? Duty to Rebel Rusty Nuts is here. Barbara Martha Brewster, Pothead Kenny, Dave Hammert, Bill Everline. We've got Hot Rod Mike, John Mallory, True Believer. We've got Tony and Craig, Deep State of Israel, Christina MD, Janie Manasco. We've got Alfred Priestley, we got Jody Tarak, Darren Watson, The Great Conspiracy is here, Sean Lively, Marie Busby, Dave Hemmert, Christina MD, Michelle Gross. Who else is here? We've got Dee 4004, Margaret Mary Young. What's up? Who else is here? PJCCG. Yes, we are the news now. Jeannie Stonebrook, Villain is here. Mark Russell. Who else? True Believer, Big Surge. Nancy Strickland, Jeff and Houdini, Victor Licio, Abby Twin, David Hall, B. Borrowed, Steve Turk, Scott Hootlin, 10 Dude, Victor, Cindy, Eugene, Parmis, Mrs. Pothead Kenny. Hello, Mrs. We've got Smell My Finger. Well, at least it wasn't pull my finger. And then we got Corrine Brown, Jim Shelton, John Craig, Daniel Horsky, Tracy Mullen. Man, the gang is all here tonight. Welcome back. Looks like the algorithm's being a little bit more friendly. We got Titanium Maximum here, gas down at $2.88 at Costco in Pennsylvania. What is up? Okay, where do we even begin? Did I cover all the bases yet? I think I did. Oh, Super Chats. That's right, Super Chats. I think I saw a couple come in, or maybe that was on our other stream that was glitching out on us. Sharon Johnson dropping $2. Thank you, Sharon, for that $2. We're just getting started. Our first Super Chat of the evening. Who will be our next? Only you know. All right, let's get into the first topic of the evening, and let's get this news party started. Good evening, America. What happens when the hunter becomes the hunted? When the very forces that tried to destroy a man suddenly find themselves in the crosshairs? Well, tonight we're going to reveal shocking insider details about President Trump's second term that have Washington insiders panicking. One of his fiercest critics has made a stunning admission that changes everything we thought we knew about this administration. The deep state spent 4 years trying to break him, or even longer, really. But did their relentless attacks actually forge something far more dangerous to their existence than they ever imagined? Well, the revelations you're about to hear will not be reported anywhere else, so stay with us. And as we step into 2025, one thing is clear: de-dollarization is not stopping. It's accelerating. China and other BRICS nations are scared of President Trump, and it's making them more determined to reduce their dependence on the U.S. dollar and establish themselves as global economic superpowers. What is their secret weapon? Well, it is gold. In fact, China resumed buying gold, and you know what's even more telling? They underreport their buys. Doesn't it make you wonder why? They recognize its global value and ability to withstand economic shocks. Gold is a global asset with innate value. It's tangible, it's reliable, and immune to economic manipulation. China and other BRICS countries, they want to be prepared. They just don't want it known. So you need to prepare like they are. Go to the link in the description, nextnewsgold.com, or call that number, 877-646-5347. Tell them Gary Franchi sent you, and ask them how you can get 10 1-ounce silver coins. Okay, yes, the deep state is crumbling as Trump's second term demolishes the globalist agenda. Courts overstepping, border invasions, and the leftist meltdown you won't see on mainstream media. The truth is desperately trying to be hidden. There is our great president celebrating Easter. I believe that is at the Easter egg roll earlier today. We'll have more on that later. But here's the bombshell. And Coulter, remember her? Yeah, she's suddenly back in the spotlight. Remember how she was a big supporter of Trump, and then all of a sudden she flipped. She became one of his biggest critics. Well, Ann Coulter reveals how Trump's first term was hijacked by Wall Street puppets, Kushner and Cohn. She confronted him in the Oval Office, but the deep state had him surrounded. The swamp was too deep the first time around. Listen.
The immigration stuff program was a couple months before the 2024 election. As we sit here today, close to 100 days into the second Trump administration, what do you think these first 100 days will be remembered for?
The most wonderful 100 days in United States history. I can't believe how great Trump is. If you've followed my work assiduously, you know I campaigned with Trump when he was running in 2016. He did ask for a copy of my book, Adios America. A lot of the immigration stuff came from that. Huge fan. I was ecstatic the night he won. And then he hired Jared Kushner and Gary Cohn and turned the keys of the kingdom over to Wall Street. And it was basically, you know, Jeb Bush. So I gently encouraged him to go back to the great stuff he had campaigned on. I showed up in the Oval Office. I didn't release this, but it came out. I think the yelling and cursing was so loud in the Oval Office about 3 months into his first term, and just yelled at him. And I wasn't the first one to use the F word, but oh boy, did that fly, because he wasn't keeping his promises on trade, on anchor babies, and especially the wall. I say that to say I think we're actually kind of lucky that he lost in 2020 and that the left spent 4 years absolutely persecuting him, prosecuting, I mean, the absurd things they went after him and his supporters for. And apparently that made him mad. So term 2, I'm getting everything I voted for.
Program was a couple.
Well, isn't that interesting? She's coming around. She makes a stunning confession, too. The last 4-year war against Trump backfired, and their persecution made him angry. Now we are getting everything.
He wasn't keeping his promises on trade, on anchor babies, and especially. So term 2, I'm getting everything I voted for. I mean, even more. I can't believe it. Every day, it's things I didn't even think of. Yes, the water pressure in the showers, the toilets, the going after the universities, the anchor baby executive order, which I understand as of yesterday will be going before the Supreme Court. Very happy about that. Congress should pass a law to make it permanent, but hopefully the Supreme Court will rule the right way, because I believe the law, as I described in Adios America, is absolutely clear on that.
Okay, keep plugging your book, Ann. Thanks. We got nuclear truth bomb, too. Trump steamrolling through D.C. like a patriot wrecking ball. DEI, tariffs, law firms, courts, UN, FEMA, FDA. Nothing is safe from Trump. The globalists are panicking. And check out CNN.
All 11. Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive. Deport.
Yeah. And Coulter, she's back, confirming that Trump with J.D. Vance is unstoppable. She went from a Trump critic to an ecstatic supporter.
Trust Trump. And you know, truthfully, I really like his choice of J.D. Vance, which I had recommended back in May. Can't trust Trump as far as I can throw him, but I do trust J.D. Vance to care about the left behind people.
And Coulter,
she still says she doesn't trust him. Wow.
What was it that caused this change from your opinion to today? Was it a J.D. Vance pick? Is it the people that Donald Trump is surrounding him with? Or is it he's just unexpectedly running the country different than he did last time?
Oh my gosh, is it different? I mean, all of those things. But apparently you don't want to make Donald Trump mad, because I mean, I don't even want to remember the things I didn't like about him first term, because I'm so ecstatic second term. But, you know, I mean, he won in 2016 with regular Americans, with the working class, with the left behind, with people like me and all of my friends in New York who've been waiting for a Republican candidate, or any candidate, our entire lives to run on the basket of issues that Trump was running on. No more permanent wars. Immigration.
Yeah, she's really trying to climb back into Trump's good graces. I don't think it's going to work, though. She does drop some more truth bombs, though, about the corrupt courts, forgotten their role. Listen.
Law. I think all Americans have lost sight of, because the Supreme Court's kind of lost sight of it, and that is the Supreme Court, all courts, are not supposed to be writing law. They are not supposed to be writing policy. What they are doing is deciding cases between two people, or institutions, the parties, and that's it. They are ruling on a case between two parties. So, for example, quick, easy example, the Supreme Court's affirmative action decision, or race discrimination decision, a couple of years ago against North Carolina and Harvard. Technically, the court's ruling applied only to North Carolina and Harvard. But by implication, that meant other universities probably shouldn't keep discriminating on the basis of race, because you could just keep taking those cases up to the Supreme Court. But it wasn't announcing a policy the way Congress can write a law. And people have forgotten that. I think.
She also exposes the lie about Clinton having absolute power to send a child back to communist Cuba despite court wins. Remember that? Elian Gonzalez
had won in court. So, for example, under Clinton, Janet Reno and Bill Clinton sent a poor little 8-year-old boy back to a communist dictatorship. And the families had one in court, one in court, one in court. The father he was being sent back to was not married to the mother under standard, American state law on that. He didn't have rights to the kid. But courts ruled, nope, immigration is totally up to Bill Clinton. If they want to send the 8-year-old boy back to a communist dictatorship, they win over state law. That Arizona, I won't go through all of them, but that famous Papers, Please law by Arizona, written by the magnificent Chris Kobach, denounced right and left. It was the Papers, Please part of that law, and that was when Arizona law enforcement officials, if they pull over someone for a reason, and he seems to be, they have probable cause to believe it's illegal, they can ask for him to prove his citizenship. And by the way, immigrants are required to carry papers with them. That's been the law for a long time, and hold him. So their position was, okay, Obama is not enforcing federal immigration law written on the books. Obama has decided not to follow it, but we're going to follow it. We won't go beyond federal law. Goes up to the Supreme Court, and they say, nope, if the president doesn't want to follow immigration law, well, that's his prerogative. Plenary power. So those are just a few examples of this is 100% in the president's presidential powers. The district courts do not have authority to do this. And just one other quick point on that. Something that I think all Americans have lost sight of, because the Supreme Court's kind of lost sight of it, and that is the Supreme Court, all courts, are not supposed to be writing law. They are not supposed to be writing policy. What they are doing is deciding cases between two people, or institutions.
And she gives another history lesson. When Clinton sent an 8-year-old to communist Cuba, the court said fine. When Arizona tried to check citizenship with papers, magnificent, she says. That was interesting how she brought up Elian Gonzalez. I didn't think about that, but I do recall that famous photograph of that immigration SWAT team and finding Elian being held in a closet by his father or family member or whatever it was. Where was the left outraged then? No, I mean, that was when Bill Clinton did it. And here we have this. Senate rhinos betraying Trump by considering tax hikes on Americans making $1 million. The uniparty never learns. Here is Senator Kennedy.
Tax rate on wealth. Let me switch gears here a little bit, ask you about President Trump's agenda, because I know you all are going to be very focused on that. Senate Republicans split right now, Senator, over whether to allow tax hikes on wealthy Americans as a part of that budget bill that you're trying to pass. Bloomberg News is reporting that the House proposal would set the rate at 40% for taxpayers earning $1 million or more per year. That's up from the current top tax rate of 37%. Senator, would you support increasing the tax rate on wealthy Americans?
I'm not sure yet. I'd like to see the language. Here are my thoughts, Kristen, generally. I don't believe in making tax policy on the basis of class warfare. Mm-hmm. And I think the people who are raising this issue, they're entitled to, of course, but they're asking the wrong question. I listened under President Biden, my Democratic colleagues for 4 years asked, who needs to pay more in taxes? That, to me, is the wrong question. The right question is, what the hell happened to the money? And I hope that's the question that we address fundamentally in the reconciliation.
But, Senator, it sounds like you're leaving the door open to the possibility that you could ultimately, at some point, support an increase in taxes if you thought it was the best way to get that budget bill over the finish line?
Well, we're in the process of putting the bill together. And here's what will probably happen. The House and the Senate will spend about, hopefully no more than 60 days trying to reach a consensus. Everything's on the table. Mm-hmm. We won't reach a consensus. And then we'll have to go to the White House and meet with the president. And after a few hugs and a cup of hot cocoa, the president will arbitrate here and say this is in and this is out. And then he's going to have to put his muscle behind it to pass it. But this bill is important. It's our way of lowering prices. You lower prices, by cutting spending, by deregulating the economy, and by designing a tax code that looks like somebody designed it on purpose.
The demographic divide has been exposed. College-educated white women are the only white group supporting DEI programs. The white knights. The indoctrination factories have programmed them to destroy their own culture. This is what your tax dollars fund at universities.
Here that we see this. White women with at least a college degree, the only group of white voters that really kind of is on the left politically, aligned with progressive causes, democratic politics. Give you an example here is that DEI question, right here, that we asked about in our poll. We had two big statements we read to voters. Basically, do you want to continue DEI programs or do you think they should be ended? And again, look at this divide here. White men, no degree, end it. White men with a degree, end it, they say. White women, no degree, end it, they say, by double digits. And then white women with a college degree, completely different by a nearly 40-point margin. They say to continue DEI. See this.
How ridiculous. Now check this out. The White House panicking after Harvard's shocking response to their own letter. Now they're blaming Harvard. Classic deep state, create a crisis, deny responsibility. The globalist puppets can't even keep their conspiracy straight.
Actually just sort of, okay, so the White House's position is it was malpractice by Harvard to not realize that this letter was so outrageous, it probably wasn't true. I mean, that letter came from. I mean, I think that statement actually just sort of gives away the whole game. Essentially, the argument that we're hearing there from May Mailman at the White House is they should have known. They should have known there was something wrong. They should have picked up the phone and said to us at the White House, hey, guys, this looks like a mistake. I think it's pretty obvious where the fault lies, though.
I mean, Ellie, could you imagine if Harvard had responded to this letter by saying, okay, we'll meet these demands, and actually that they had been sent in error to them?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Look, this is serious stuff. I mean, this is a major showdown that is escalating by the day. If Harvard had acquiesced to these demands, I mean, it would have changed the institution and compromised the institution forever. But I'm interested to see now what happens next. Now, does the White House withdraw this, or do they sort of decide, whoops, we're pot committed now, and we're going to have this fight through to the end?
Even Chuck Todd admits the truth. The establishment tried to cancel Trump and silence patriots after J6. They weaponized big tech and media law firms against him. Now Trump is fighting back, and they're terrified.
Inoperable. There's no doubt Trump wants some revenge.
Sure.
Right? On the law firms, on press, whatever, But let's not beat around the bush. All these institutions did want to cancel Trump.
Yeah.
Did want him inoperable in mainstream public. I think the biggest mistake, and I did not follow the Pied Piper on this one, which was this idea that we deplatform everybody post-January 6th. This is a democracy. This is the First Amendment. And all of a sudden now you've got law firms or what's going on and all this stuff. It's like, look, that was a bad moment. That doesn't mean, look, I understand the passion of that moment.
Right.
Yeah.
But my God, the whole point of the Constitution is to protect minority rights, not majority rights. Yeah. The whole damn thing was written to protect minority rights. And so, you may not like that speech, but speech is speech. And the decision to deplatform bit mainstream media in the ass. Why? Okay, Donald Trump started his own information ecosystem. How do you like them apples now?
Right.
And then, I sit here, it's like traditional media, what's happened?
Yeah.
You did try to deplatform him.
Yeah.
It was a mistake. Somebody ought to come up and say, this was a mistake. There's no doubt.
Wow. Chuck Todd. Remember when they called us violent? The Democrats compared Trump to Hitler for 10 years. They weaponized the courts to try to imprison him. This led to 2 assassination attempts that Trump miraculously survived. The real political violence comes from the left. Here's more.
Murderers in the history. You want to talk about violence against political opponents? Let's talk about the fact that Democrats have been labeling President Trump a threat to democracy for the better half of 10 years. Let's talk about how they have compared him to Hitler, one of the worst mass murderers in the history of the world, and that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden weaponized the court system and the justice system in this country against Donald Trump in an attempt to imprison him. He sat through a courthouse for 7 weeks this past year, and the Democrats were hoping he would go to jail for it. That is real political violence that has led to 2 heinous assassination attempts on President Trump's life that, by the grace of God, he was able to escape escape, and he is here with us today. So yes, President Trump knows a little bit about political violence because he's experienced it himself. And talking about the tragic realities of war that Liz Cheney and her father Dick Cheney have got this country into is not political violence. It's talking about the reality of the foreign conflicts that the Washington, D.C. establishment have sold.
The mainstream media won't show you this explosive truth about Trump's second term. The deep state's in full panic mode as he reclaims America from the globalist cabal. So there you have it. The deep state thought they could destroy Donald Trump through endless investigations, media smears, even politicized court cases. Instead, they created a president who's no longer interested in playing nice or making friends in Washington. He's only interested in results, from reinstating presidential authority over immigration to dismantling corrupt bureaucracies. Trump is doing exactly what he promised in 2016, but with a new resolve in a forged in the fires of persecution. As Ann Coulter put it, you don't want to make Donald Trump mad. That's when things really get done. So here's the question. Is the deep state's war against Trump the greatest political miscalculation in modern history? Or do they know exactly what they were doing? And the chaos was always the point. Drop a comment and show your American spirit by supporting the Next News Network. Hit our merch shop down below, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Okay, Craig has become a member. What's up, Craig? Welcome to the family, or maybe welcome back. I thought you were a member. And no. Craig gifted a member. Pardon me. He gifted a membership to Carolyn. Excuse me. Welcome, Carolyn, to the family. What is up? Okay, we got some more news to jump into. What do you guys think? I don't know, man. Seeing Ann Coulter kind of pop up again, it's like, okay, I think I know what's happening here. It's pretty clear you're just trying to get back in Trump's good graces. Anyway, let's go on. We got the big news too about the Pope dying. So much international craziness happening. Let's go. Right now, we're investigating a series of events so extraordinary that even skeptics are beginning to wonder if something supernatural is at work. Two of the most powerful globalist figures have suddenly vanished from the world stage on the same day, and an ancient prophecy from centuries ago appears to be unfolding with chilling precision. What happened in the final hours before Pope Francis' death? And why did the architect of the Great Reset abruptly abandon his post after vowing to never step down? And what does a 900-year-old prediction about the final pope have to do with what's happening right now? Well, the connections we've uncovered will leave you questioning everything. Now, in these prophetic times, looking your best matters more than ever. A startling 2024 study shows that collagen can transform aging skin quickly. Women taking daily collagen reported fewer wrinkles, firmer skin, and improved hydration, but not all collagen is created equal. That's why I only trust this multi-collagen formula. 5 key ingredients from 4 different sources essential for reducing wrinkles and promoting elasticity. Using hydrolyzed peptides and for rapid absorption, this non-GNO formula blends perfectly into coffee or smoothies with virtually no taste. Get 51% off today at healthwithgary.com and discover the Vatican's best-kept beauty secret. All right. Did you hear the news? Yeah. The Pope is no more. That's right. But has a prophecy been activated? Pope Francis dead hours after meeting Vice President Vance, and Klaus Schwab resigns from the World Economic Forum on the same day. The globalist system is collapsing as ancient Vatican prophecy warns of a final pope before Christ's return in 2027? Well, let's dig a little bit deeper. Remember, no man knows the day nor the hour of Christ's return. So some people do think it's in 2027. Of course, 2027 is a broad category of time. It's 1 year. No man knows the day nor the hour. That's what Scripture says. But the year? I don't know. I'm not going to get into it. I'm not a date setter. That's not me. Other people have, other things. But the Lord always told us to watch. That was the instruction, to watch. Watch and know the hour and the time of the seasons, right? He gave us signs to watch for. Now, Vice President J.D. Vance, he was one of the last global leaders to see the Pope alive. On Easter Sunday, the frail pontiff received Vance at the Vatican. Vance told him, "I pray for you every day." Hours later, the Pope was dead. The timing has sent shockwaves through the Vatican. Here's some AP video from that meeting.
Hello. How are you again? Yeah, so good to see you. Thank you. Hello. So good to see you. God bless you and good morning. How are you?
Find yourself. Happy
Easter. Yeah, thank you. Happy Easter to you, Father. Wonderful. I know you've not been feeling great, but it's good to see you in better health.
Grazie.
Anche buona Pasquale. E dice
Grazie, Santo Padre.
Thank you.
these are for your children.
Okay, thank you.
These are the gifts. These are also gifts for you as well.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
The Vatican tie, and then the rosaries for your wife, white for your children, and the red one is for the red. Thank you very much for your visit.
Of course. And thank you for seeing me. Pray for you every day. God bless you.
Io prego per lei ogni giorno, che Dio la benedica. Grazie, Santo Padre.
Happy Easter. Happy Easter.
And that was it. Now, President Trump has announced he will attend Pope Francis' funeral in Rome. He said, "Melania and I will be going to the funeral of Pope Francis. We look forward to being there." True statesmanship, even though this Pope often criticized Trump's policies. Here's the post that Trump made on Truth Social just a few hours ago. Also, President Trump has ordered the flags half-mast for Pope Francis, saying he was a good man. But of course, you'll notice how the media ignores Trump's respectful response while they fabricate division. This is how a real leader honors foreign dignitaries.
Really something. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and a very happy Easter to everyone. It was a beautiful day yesterday, and it's a beautiful day today. We don't have to worry about sunburn, but looks like it's not going to be raining. It's going to be really something special. 42,000 people are expected all throughout the day, and it's an honor to have you. I just signed an executive order putting the flags of our country, all of them, all federal flags and state flags, at half-mast in honor of Pope Francis. So he was a good man, worked hard. He loved the world, and it's an honor to do that. I want to thank everybody for being here. This is some band. I've heard this band actually indirectly for 4 years and very directly now for 4.5. And I like the direct method even better. But the Marine Corps band is very, very special. Thank you very much. What a great job. Thank you. Thank you. I also want to thank the National Park Service, the job they do and making everything so beautiful and spiffy. And I'm very difficult when it comes to that. I will tell you, very, very difficult. And I say they have done an incredible job. You just have to look around and see.
Now, we're going to take a look at the Easter message that President Trump gave, declaring America is a nation of believers and that we need God and we want God. While the left attacks Christianity, Trump stands firm in defending our nation's spiritual foundation. The contrast couldn't be more clear.
Devotion to all. On Easter Sunday, we celebrate his glorious resurrection and proclaim, as Christians have done for nearly 2,000 years, he is risen. Through the pain and sacrifice of Jesus on the cross, we saw God's boundless love and devotion to all humanity. And in that moment of his resurrection, history was forever changed with the promise of everlasting life. As we approach this joyous Easter Sunday, I want to wish Christians everywhere a happy and beautiful and blessed holiday. America is a nation of believers. We need God. We want God. And with his help, we will make our nation stronger, safer, greater, and more prosperous, and much more united than ever before. Thank you to everyone, and have a really happy Easter.
Amen. Thank you for that. And he had this message to say to his enemies, showing his true Christian spirit. Happy Easter to all, including the radical left lunatics. Even while fighting those bringing in murderers and drug lords, Trump extends forgiveness. This is the leader guiding us through these prophetic times. Happy Easter, he says. including all the radical left lunatics who are fighting and scheming so hard to bring murderers, drug lords, dangerous prisoners, and the mentally insane, and well-known MS-13 gang members and wife beaters back into our country. Happy Easter to the weak and ineffective judges and law enforcement officials who are allowing the sinister attack on our nation to continue. An attack so violent it will never be forgotten. Sleepy Joe Biden purposefully allowed millions of criminals to enter our country, totally unvetted and unchecked, through an open borders policy that will go down in history as the single most calamitous act ever perpetrated upon America. He was by far our worst and most incompetent president, a man who had absolutely no idea what he was doing, but to him and the person that ran and manipulated the auto pen, perhaps our real president, and to all the people who cheated in the 2020 presidential election in order to get this highly destructive moron elected, I wish you, with great love, sincerity, and affection, a very happy Easter. President Trump from his Truth Social, 8:46 a.m. on 4/20. And then we have this from Kristen Meghan, filing a report for the Next News Network on the grounds of the White House. Must see Easter egg roll packed with MAGA supporters. The weather was just right, far right, kids learning real farming, military band playing, people from all walks coming together. Of course, the media won't show you these scenes of American unity. Let's go to Kristen Meghan on the grounds at the White House.
It's been an amazing... Hello, Gary and friends of the Next News Network. Kristen Meghan here reporting from Washington, D.C. I came here from the People's Republic of Michigan and came with some friends and our children. It's been an amazing event, and it's so much more than just an egg roll activity where you take a wooden spoon and you just go through this little maze. There are science-based activities, art-based activities, and even cookie decorating, although it had food dye. But overall, it's been an amazing weather day. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. It is just right. Far right. There's a lot of mega hats here. There's a lot of people getting along from all walks of life. And one of the coolest things was that this is sponsored by farmers. And kids are learning about the process of farming, the health and safety aspects, the inspection aspects, and they got cute little gold eggs after the Easter egg hunt. This has been amazing. There is also military band playing right now, and just so many activities. They did a great job of getting people in at different shifts so it's not too overcrowded. But Gary, I highly recommend this for years to come because this event was way more than I imagined, and I'm so grateful to be here. Hello, Gary.
Thank you for that, Kristen. Meanwhile, the left derangement continues. Paid protesters so incompetent, they're protesting at Vice President Vance's empty home while he was in Rome. These are the intellectual elites trying to take over our country. Can't even figure out basic geography.
Bow down, we say stand up. They say 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 bow down, we say stand up. Bow down, we...
Yeah. He's not even there. Sick, though. This is real sick. Kennedy grandson Jack Schlossberg accuses Vice President Vance of killing the Pope. That's the new conspiracy theory on the left. J.D. killed the Pope, he posted. The unhinged left spreading vile conspiracy theories about ricin poison in the handshake. This is what passes for respectable discourse from the Democrats. This picture was posted. Yeah, that's just an example. And then someone posted this picture of J.D. Vance as the Grim Reaper. And then here is the Schlossberg post of the Kennedy family. Oh, okay, J.D. killed the Pope. Yeah, that's what they're saying. But the ancient prophecy of the popes predicted this exact moment. With Francis gone, we await Peter the Roman, the final pope before Christ's return. The 900-year-old manuscript points to 2027 as the year of judgment, just 20 months from now. And if you're not familiar with the St. Malachi prophecies, this is what it looks like, describing and naming all of the popes all the way until the final pope. Now, there's three frontrunners to replace Francis that are all named Peter: Cardinal Peter Erdo, Peter Turkson, and Pietro Paraline. The prophecy's final line, Peter the Roman will feed his flock amid many tribulations. Everything is aligning. Check out this commentary on that prophecy.
All the way to our current. Have you guys ever heard of the prophecy of the popes? This book was found in the Vatican archives in the 1500s. His name was Malachi of Armagh, which he was a saint from like the 1100s or something.
This guy who wrote it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But this book has 111 cryptic phrases and basically predicted every single pope all the way to our current pope. But the scary thing is, after Pope Francis, the last one, ends in a paragraph stating the end of the papacy, which is the end of the popes, the destruction of Rome, and Judgment Day.
Oh, God.
So this book actually gave name by name by name of every pope. Now, there's not a ton of popes, but to get even 4 right would be a miracle. But he's got every single one right since around, I think, 1300. And it would be so unlikely when you're trying to fulfill prophecy on your own to try and find somebody who would fit each of those popes' description and then hand that down to the next generation of cardinals who would pick the next popes. It just couldn't happen.
Have you guys ever heard of the prophecy of the popes? This book.
Well, now you have. Now, the papal conclave will begin soon. 120 cardinals under age 80 will vote for the next pope under total secrecy, no phones, no outside contact. Will they elect the prophesied Peter the Roman, who will witness the 7-hilled city destroyed before Christ's return?
Ceremony.
This is from the New York Post.
There's always been
today.
an air of secrecy around the Vatican when it comes to electing a new pope, which has been a closed-door process since the year 1059 and has long sparked the public's imagination. Most recently, Hollywood dipped its toe into exploring the shrouded ceremony that takes place under Michelangelo's fresco of the Last Judgment with the film Conclave. Now, with the passing of Pope Francis, all eyes are on the Catholic Church once again as it prepares to choose a new leader. When a pope dies or resigns, a special group of cardinals, called the College of Cardinals, convenes at the Vatican from all over the world. The members of this group have all been chosen by the Pope and don distinctive red robes as they prepare for the papal conclave. This process usually begins 15 to 20 days following the death of a pope. Technically, any Roman Catholic man can be elected as pope, but in reality, only one of the 252 cardinals at the conclave will be chosen. When it comes to the vote itself, a maximum of 120 are allowed to participate, and they have to be under the age of 80. They are known as the cardinal electors, and they better be ready to say goodbye to their cell phones.
And they must be shielded from all news that may influence their judgment. You understand?
These 120 electors take a Latin oath of absolute secrecy before sealing themselves off from any outside influence. Each cardinal votes by secret ballot at the Sistine Chapel. There's always been an air of secrecy around.
Alex Jones was talking about Pope Francis today, the first Jesuit pope against canon law. Listen.
Completely resigned. 2 huge events happened today. Pope Francis died and Klaus Schwab completely resigned from the WEF. Both of these are massive events. Now, it's not nice to talk bad about the dead, but the facts are Pope Francis was the first Jesuit pope. When they set up the Jesuits over 500 years ago to police the Catholic Church, it was expressly against the law, canon law, to have one be a pope. Because you can't have the Praetorian Guard that supposedly protect the faith of Jesus, then be the ones that would obviously put their guy in. But that happened. So all the globalists had to do was get control of the Jesuits, which they totally turned into a huge leftist, basically communist arm in the last 100 years. Then they had control of the Catholic Church. Like every other major institution has been taken over by the globalists. We're now in the process of humanity awakening and taking back the institutions all over the world. Catholics are great people. That's why the globalists have been targeting traditional Catholics, trying to outlaw them, say they're criminals. But if you really want to take over the different large sects Christianity, you've got to take over the leadership of it. So his death, when he promoted open borders and one world religion and just criticized President Trump and other populist leaders and went on, is really emblematic of the overall collapsing globalist system we see. And I say, God have mercy on his soul. I'm not going to judge him. But most Catholics I know absolutely think that he was a terrible, terrible pope.
Klaus Schwab, of course, fleeing the World Economic Forum. You will own nothing. Abandoning his globalist creation. Here's more from AJ.
2 years ago, now moving on to who we know is pure evil. And that is Klaus Schwab, the protege of Henry Kissinger, the mouthpiece of the UN and the globalists. 2 years ago, they made the WEF co-equal with the UN under global government. I mean, this is massive. So 6 months ago, he resigns as the chairman. That wasn't enough. Then he resigned off the main committee. Now he's completely resigned from the WEF today because he's so hated and nobody wants to be part of the organization and it's falling apart. It was the preeminent globalist organization just a few years ago. You will eat the bugs. And now it is falling down in front of everybody. And all of their policies around the world are being shut down. And the U.S. taxpayer money through USAID and the EPA, hundreds of millions a year is being cut off. And so the mouth of the New World Order is discredited, is falling apart. And Klaus Schwab just said 2 years ago he would never resign. Now he's completely gone out of the organization he founded. Be really the public face of the Bilderberg Group. So this is a very, very exciting time to be alive. Now moving on to who we know is pure evil. And that is Klaus Schwab, the
So are we witnessing biblical prophecy unfold before our eyes? Pope Francis dead, Schwab fleeing the World Economic Forum. Ancient prophecies and predictions of the final pope are activating. Is this a spiritual battle our ancestors warned about? Well, the signs are everywhere, and we're going to keep tracking this. So the timing is simply uncanny. Vice President J.D. Vance was among the last to see Pope Francis alive, telling him, "I pray for you every day." Hours later, the Pope was gone. And as cardinals prepare for the conclave to select the new pontiff, the prophecy of St. Malachi looms large, predicting Peter the Roman will be the final pope. Who witnesses the destruction of Rome before Christ's return? Meanwhile, Klaus Schwab, the architect of the Great Reset, who vowed he would never resign, has suddenly abandoned his post at the World Economic Forum the very same day. So something monumental is happening. The old order is crumbling. The globalist system is breaking down, and the spiritual dimension cannot be ignored. So are we witnessing the fulfillment of prophecy, or is something even more sinister unfolding behind the scenes? Drop a comment below and make sure you support the Next News Network by hitting our merch shop at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Link below. All right. Let's check in on Super Chats where we're at now. Craig, what's up? Pointing out 1,537 watching, only 668 likes. You know what to do. That's right. Smash that like button. And Robert, do you know what a red shoe pope means? I'm familiar with red shoe, but not red shoe pope. Is that something new or different? And then Villain has just upgraded their membership. Right on. Very cool. Jeff and Houdini dropping $5. Glad the bunny had no J-O-B. What's up, Doc? Yeah, the bunny over there at the White House today didn't have to instruct Donald Trump where to go. Jacob W. dropping $5 as well. Thank you for that. Jacob, we're now at $19 and one new member. Let's keep it going, folks. Let's keep it going. We got more news to get to tonight. Going into our third topic of the evening. What have we got here? What happens when an elected official sworn to protect American citizens does the unthinkable? When someone entrusted with power and privilege uses it to advocate for the very monsters terrorizing our communities. Well, tonight we expose a scandal so outrageous it defies comprehension. A United States senator caught in a compromising international escapade that has sparked bipartisan outrage. Who funded this disgraceful trip? What was caught on camera that the mainstream media refuses to show you? And how did the president of a foreign nation blatantly outmaneuver this politician on the world stage? The photographic evidence and paper trail we've obtained tell a story of betrayal that will make your blood boil. And while Senator Van Hollen sips margaritas with MS-13 gang members, American families are suffering from real pain of border violence. If you're one of the countless victims dealing with physical pain too, listen up. Before reaching for another painkiller, discover the turmeric hack that's 200 times more powerful than standard turmeric extract. When patients of a leading pain doctor try this formula, it attacked pain at its source, just like we need to attack the border crisis at its source. No more ineffective solutions that mask the problem. Watch the eye-opening video at goldenrevive.com/NNN to reclaim your life. It's linked below. So the deep state Democrats have been exposed. Liberal senator traveling to El Salvador on your dime to sip margaritas with MS-13 gang members while ignoring American victims. The globalist agenda revealed as Trump fights to protect you, the media won't show you this. American hero speaking the truth. Caroline Leavitt destroys Democrats on Easter Sunday for defending an illegal alien MS-13 gang member.
He is an illegal alien, a foreign terrorist, and a criminal MS-13 gang member who violated our country's laws by coming here in the first place. And shame on Senator Chris Van Hollen and the entire Democrat Party, who wasted Easter Sunday going on every television show in the country to advocate for the return of an illegal criminal gang member. There is a litany of evidence proving this individual's ties to MS-13 that has been confirmed in 2 different courts. There have been multiple law enforcement officers who have affirmed his MS-13 gang affiliation, and this is who the Democrat Party is advocating for. It is ridiculous. The president, this White House, the entire administration will continue to focus on deporting these illegal alien gang members and criminals from our nation's interior and enforcing our country's immigration laws. That's what the president was reelected to do. And I would add that the overwhelming majority of Americans continue to support the deportation of illegal criminals. A recent CBS poll showed that 89% of the American people support deporting illegal criminals from our homeland. So the president will continue to do that while Democrats continue to trip over themselves while ignoring American citizens whose lives have been forever impacted by the actions and the crimes of these illegal criminals, like Patty Morin, who we were so honored to have at the White House to share her daughter's story just last week. Senator Van Hollen has never called her, has never reached out to her family, yet he has spent hours now fawning over this illegal alien who is tied to a vicious gang that has taken.
Tom Homan exposes Van Hollen's treasonous trip. While Americans die from fentanyl, trafficking explodes, and angel parents weep. This Democrat flies to meet an MS-13 terrorist on your tax dollars. This guy never even visited the border under Biden.
Senator could get any information. Senator Van Hollen has obviously got a chance to meet with him, but he had to travel to El Salvador to get any information. Does that concern you at all? I mean, these are people sent by the United, I mean, in his case, sent by the United States, and not even a U.S. senator could get any information about his whereabouts or the condition of his incarceration without actually going down and making the trip to El Salvador himself?
Well, he obviously knew his whereabouts because he went there to see him. But you know what bothers me more than that is a U.S. senator traveled to El Salvador on taxpayer dime to meet with an MS-13 gang member, public safety threat terrorist. I mean, in the meantime, the day before he traveled, an illegal alien was arrested for murder, released to the streets rather than honoring an ICE detainer in his very own state. What concerns me is Van Hollen never went to the border the last 4 years on Joe Biden when he had a 600% increase in sex trafficking in women and children. You have a record number of no-inspected terrorists crossing that border. You had 250,000 Americans die from fentanyl overdose because of the open border. You got over 4,000 illegal aliens died making that journey, which is a historic record. What shocks me is he's remained silent on the travesty that happened on our southern border. Many people died. Thousands of people died. I met with hundreds of angel moms and dads who buried their children that were murdered by an illegal alien. How many angel moms and dads has he met in the state of Maryland? That's what concerns me.
Senator Van Hollen. None exactly. The mockery of America continues. Fox host destroy Van Halen for just flying to El Salvador to help MS-13 gang members. Here's Gutfeld.
I love Tyrus that this guy Van Halen, what's his name, Van Hollen? He's no Van Halen. No. He's not even
Sammy Hagar Van Halen.
Yes, he's saying. I was going to say the guy from Extreme was in.
Even worse Van Halen.
Yes. Gary Chacon did an admirable job. Thank you. By the way, you're right. Where was I? That thing, he flies out. He thinks he's doing like this amazing thing. In the air, all the news comes out, this dude's a wife beater. Yeah. And Cory Booker's like, thank God I didn't drive to the airport yet.
You know, the funny part is that he's going to El Salvador to tell them that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then you're going to have to call the White House to get your jailed ass home. That ought to be a fun. I would love to be like, let me answer the phones that night. Hello? Oh, I'll have to put you on hold. Yeah. That's the problem with dumb people.
Yeah.
No, seriously. It's like they're dumb, and we know they're dumb. But the problem is they don't know they're dumb because they're dumb.
Yes. Well, and by the way, speaking of that lack of intelligence, they're playing in Trump's lane here, right? I mean, this issue by far is his strongest issue. All the polling shows us that, right? It was the foundational pillar of his election last November. Why do they continue to play in his lane, right, where he's strongest? Which just shows you how.
Well, it goes back to, and I've been on this conspiracy thing about why they're so upset about Doge, and I think this guy falls into it. As the corruption for the last 4 years, there was a shadow group running the government. There was a small percentage that kept picking things that didn't make sense to us. There were 20% on everything because that's where the embezzlement comes from and the money comes from. I think they're trying to make an example out of him. So when it comes to them, when we see congressmen being arrested for embezzlement, they're going to say, "Oh, they're deporting us. They're taking us like they did. They're disappearing." No, you got a warrant, bruh.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But again, it goes back to my first point. Dumb.
Yeah,
dumb as rocks. Facts don't care about liberal tears. This MS-13 animal had full due process with asylum hearing that was rejected. Trump promised to rid America of gang members, murderers, and rapists, and he's keeping that promise. The left hates when Trump delivers on his word. Here he is attempting to defend himself on CNN with Dana Bash.
I actually, if you look at this, it's very interesting when people talk about the fact that this illegal alien, who is not a resident of the U.S., he is a citizen of El Salvador, actually did have due process in an asylum hearing where his request for asylum was rejected. The Trump administration, as part of the promise that they made during the campaign, President Trump made it very clear. I'm going to get rid of the gang members, the murderers, the rapists, the terrorists, and this is part of that process in keeping that campaign promise, and I think they're doing a good job at it. Actually, if you look at this, it's very interesting when people talk about the fact that...
Yeah, keep trying. More disgusting betrayal. Senator Van Hollen ignored constituent Rachel Morin, who was murdered by an illegal alien but flew across the globe for an MS-13 gang member.
Here in the United States, hit Van Hollen. Rachel Morin was a constituent of his who was murdered, and he didn't call her mother. He did not do this level of outreach, but for a man who was illegally here in the United States, he is pouring over himself, flying abroad to make sure that this man is taken care of. But his actual constituents, the citizens of the United States, those people didn't matter to him. So Republicans will continue to win this argument because Van Hollen and Democrats just don't get it.
Well, I actually, no, I think it's a great story if you're saying people grabbed off the street without...
Oh, sure. Checkmate. Liberals, El Salvador President Bukele pulled off the greatest political trap of all time. Let Van Hollen meet with MS-13 member, then exposed the margarita-sipping photo op that destroyed the Democrat narrative. Listen.
To meet up. Ladies and gentlemen, El Salvador President Nayib Bukele might have just pulled off one of the craziest political maneuvers of all time. You see, as many of you know, Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen has flown down to El Salvador in an attempt to meet up with this recently deported MS-13 gang member, Kilmar Garcia. And so you know what? El Salvador President Bukele let him do it. He let them meet up, just not for the reasons that the Democrats were hoping for. You see, the Democrat narrative for weeks now has been that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, an illegal immigrant who was deported under President Trump's America First deportation policies, is being held in some sort of third world death camp where he's being tortured, starved, and mistreated. And so Democratic Senator Van Hollen flew all the way down to El Salvador to expose the truth. And so what did President Bukele do in response? He called their bluff and exposed the Democrats for the absolute idiots that they are. He let Democratic Senator Van Hollen meet face-to-face with Kilmar Garcia, and then he absolutely humiliated the Democrats in front of the entire world. You see, after their meeting, Bukele took to Twitter and posted, Kilmar Abrego Garcia miraculously risen from the death camps and torture, now sipping margaritas with Senator Van Hollen in the tropical paradise of El Salvador. Folks, you can't make this up. You literally could not write a script better than this. But folks, then President Bukele went on an absolute Twitter tirade. Take a look at this. First, President Bukele retweeted a post saying, imagine if Democrat senators cared about Americans as much as they do foreign gang members who spent a few years in the U.S. And then he retweeted another post that said, Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen is now sipping margaritas with alleged wife-beater and MS-13 gang member Kilmar Garcia in El Salvador. And then, finally, Bukele himself posted a status saying, I love chess. Then he retweeted another post saying, checkmate. Folks, that's right. This entire situation was a setup designed to make the Democrats look like the anti-American traitors that they actually are. President Bukele baited Van Hollen into coming down to El Salvador, let him take the photo op with the MS-13 gang member, and then used that very same photo op to absolutely eviscerate the Democrat narrative. And now, you know what? Take a look at what Stephen Miller had to say about all of this.
Sean, we've reached a point in American politics where we have one party led by President Donald Trump that fights for Americans, and a second party, I guess led by AOC, that fights for illegal aliens. But not just illegal aliens, criminal, wife-beating, terrorist illegal aliens. 2 immigration judges, as you said, found that he was a member of MS-13 at the arresting police department here nearby in Prince George's County. On top of that, we have, of course, the protective order filed by his wife, alleging horrific, multiple instances.
There were 2?
Yes, of extreme, violent physical abuse. And then on top of all of that, he's an illegal alien and a member of what has been designated as a foreign terrorist organization. You have the entire...
The America First agenda has been unleashed. Trump vowed to deport illegal criminals and violent gang members, and he's doing it. And Democrats think they can bring this foreign terrorist back. Never happening. Here is the press secretary.
So to the Democrats, the president swore to the American public he was going to deport illegal criminals, and especially those who have been involved in violent gangs like MS-13 that have terrorized American communities. And so to the Democrat Party, who thinks that they are going to bring this foreign terrorist back to the United States of America to live a peaceful and happy life, that is never going to happen. Not only is this an MS-13 gang member, but he is also an illegal alien who broke our nation's laws to come here. And not only is it a slap in the face to the American citizens whose lives who have been put in danger or in many cases lost at the hands of these illegal alien criminal gang members, but it's also a slap in the face to the millions of legal immigrants who came to our country the right way, waited their turn, and paid their dues. We have a legal immigration system for a reason. The president is going to continue to uphold that.
Follow the money. Confirmed Van Hollen's trip to visit MS-13 terrorists was on your dime.
Who did pay for this trip?
This was an officially cleared, congressional trip, cleared on a bipartisan basis. Yes, like every other trip.
Who did?
Another truth bomb. Over 4,000 illegals died crossing the border and more, all while Senator Van Hollen remains silent, but he jumps on a plane for one animal.
Terrorists. What bothers me more than that is a U.S. Senator traveled to El Salvador on taxpayer dime to meet with an MS-13 gang member, public safety threat terrorist. I mean, in the meantime, the day before he traveled, an illegal alien was arrested for murder, released to the streets rather than honoring an ICE detainer in his very own state. What concerns me is Van Hollen never went to the border the last 4 years on Joe Biden when he had a 600% increase in sex trafficking in women and children. You have a record number of no-inspected terrorists crossing that border. You had 250,000 Americans die from fentanyl overdose because of the open border. You had over 4,000 illegal aliens died making that journey, which is a historic record. What shocks me is he's remained silent on the travesty that happened on our southern border. Many people died. Thousands of people died. I've met with hundreds of angel moms and dads who buried their children that were murdered by an illegal alien. How many angel moms and dads has he met in the state of Maryland? That's what concerns me. What bothers me.
Here's another reality check. Oh my, I can't even go there. Okay, so talk about the tattoos. The left claims it's just tattoos. Border experts schooling the liberal media. The tattoos are one of many factors used to identify gang members. Yes, he has MS-13 tattooed across his knuckles. Here's Tom Homan on ABC This Week.
Gang member. No.
I mean, you acknowledge tattoos are part of the calculation here. I mean, you might have
There's
a tattoo.
one factor out of many factors. I worked. Have you been an alien gang squad? Because I have. Tattoos are one of many factors that's going to determine someone's gang. It's not the only one. You can't say, okay, tattoo gang member. No, there's other indicia that's added to that tattoo. Tattoo is one factor that adds to other factors that makes that determination. What I'm saying is you can't ignore a tattoo. That's one more factor that leads you to believe maybe he's a gang member. It's just not based on tattoos. It's based on a lot of other things, but tattoo's one of many. But no one's removed just because of a tattoo.
In other words, you acknowledge tattoo.
His wife has been covering up the tattoos on social media posts. And now we have this. Here's Tucker Carlson with the El Salvadorian president. A satanic connection confirmed. El Salvador president exposes the demonic truth about MS-13, that they perform satanic rituals. Oh my goodness. I don't even know if I can play this.
Salvador. MS-13 is one of the major gangs.
And they are satanic also.
That was my question. So very little.
Sorry.
No, but I would hope you will explain it, because very little has been written in the West about this.
They're satanic, yes.
But actually, literally, can you explain?
Well, they didn't start as a satanic organization. MS-13 started in Los Angeles, in the U.S., because Salvadorans weren't allowed to sell drugs by the Mexican gangs. So they created a gang that was called the 18th Street Gang, because they basically wanted to sell drugs in a street that was 18th Street over there. But then division started they started dividing themselves and started infighting, so they created the MS-13. And then MS-13 started outgrowing the other gangs, and they started exporting the organization to other parts of the U.S. And when Bill Clinton decided to deport those guys, he didn't tell our government at the time, I'm deporting this criminal. They just send them here. And they came, there were few, but unchecked. At the same time, some laws were passed to protect minors from imprisonment. And of course, the gangs use that to recruit 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds. So at the beginning it was, some youth causing harm, assaulting, trying to control their territory, selling drugs, things that are bad, but probably not critical. But they grew, and they started controlling territories. A few years later, they were actually a huge international criminal organization that they have bases in Italy, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, the U.S. Basically, a lot of major cities in the U.S. will have strongholds of.
Right outside Washington, D.C.
Yes, of course.
And here we have, in real time, CNN commentator admits that Van Hollen is losing by sipping margaritas with an MS-13 gangbanger.
Gangbanger. Yeah, listening to Van Hollen explain all this, like if you're explaining how you came to be sipping margaritas with an MS-13 gangbanger who's lived illegally in the United States for 14 years before he was finally deported, you're losing, okay? You're losing. You're losing optically, you're losing politically, and I assume that people of Maryland are wondering, why doesn't this guy ever work as hard for us as he does for this guy who's down in El Salvador, which, by the way, is where he's from in the first place? Look, the Trump administration has a legal point of view. They're going to keep working this, through these different court cases. I think, macro view for me, the American people elected Donald Trump to deport illegal aliens. They especially elected him to deport people who are affiliated with very violent transnational gangs that we now characterize as terrorist organizations. I think he's doing his job, and I think the American people are behind him, and I think the Democrats like Van Hollen look ridiculous standing up for him more than they stand up for the people of the United States of America who are actually citizens of this country.
Now, if you don't know what he's talking about with respect to the defending Margaritagate, here he is at a press conference. It's a total disaster. Caught in Margaritagate with a deported wife-beating man in El Salvador. He's getting roasted by millions now. The posts are all over social media. And here's one of the pictures people are posting. And I should also point out, here's the photograph that Donald Trump posted. Very clear. You can see on his knuckles, MS-13. So he's got no problem bragging about it on his own body. But of course, the left wants to defend this man, and Van Hollen holding a press conference to do the same. Listen to how he goes into great detail about the salt on the rim of the glass and the amount of fluid in each person's glass. I mean, he goes into great detail in an attempt to debunk this photo op. Regardless, he was there. And now he has to defend his actions that were paid for on the taxpayer dime. Listen.
Some coffee. Now I just want to take a moment. I hadn't planned to do this, but as I was landing on the airplane, I got a transcript of some questions President Trump was asked at the White House today about what I would call Margaritagate. I don't know if you guys have been following this, but President Bukele, you know, after I met with Kilmar, did this tweet showing us at a table with these two glasses. So here's what happened. When I first sat down with Kilmar, we just had glasses of water on the table. I think maybe some coffee. And as we were talking, one of the government people came over and deposited two other glasses on the table with ice, and I don't know if it was salt or sugar around the top, but they look like margaritas. And if you look at the one they put in front of Kilmar, it actually had a little less liquid than the one in front of me, to try to make it look, I assume, like he drank out of it. Let me just be very clear. Neither of us touched the drinks that were in front of us. And if you want to play a little Sherlock Holmes, I'll tell you how you can know that. So if you look at the video or the picture I sent out from the beginning of our meeting, you'll see there are no glasses on the table. So you'll see in later videos they are on the table. But they made a little mistake. For some people are very careful, right? If you sip out of one of those glasses, some of whatever it was, salt or sugar, would disappear. You would see a gap. There's no gap. Nobody drank any margaritas or sugar water or whatever it is. But this is a lesson into the lengths that President Bukele will do to deceive people about what's going on. And it's also shows the lengths that the Trump administration and the president will go to, because when he was asked about a reporter about this, he just went along for the ride.
It also shows the lengths you will go to defend criminal international terrorists. So let's be crystal clear about what happened here. United States Senator used your tax dollars to fly to El Salvador, not to address the fentanyl crisis killing hundreds of thousands of Americans, not to meet with angel families who've lost loved ones to illegal alien crime, but to advocate for an MS-13 gang member who was legally deported after receiving full due process. And he got played like a fiddle by El Salvador's President Bukele, who allowed the photo op, then exposed it to the world with a simple message: I love chess. Now, the lines couldn't be clearer. President Trump is prioritizing American safety and American lives. Democrats are prioritizing foreign criminals with gang tattoos. So ask yourself, when did the Democrat Party start putting MS-13 animals above American citizens, and why do they seem so shocked when they lose elections? Drop a comment below and make sure you support The Real News by going down to the link in the description, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, and buying some Next News swag. Yeah, disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. Okay, what else have we got on the list tonight? Let's keep going. What is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? Let's get over what? Okay, Jacob W, $5. Thank you, Jacob. And then we got another one from Squeeze a lot? Wish we could send the pest testers false location information, then they flock to empty buildings all the time. Tony, dropping $5. Let's get Gary over $100. Donate to keep the live going. Thank you, Tony, for that motivational message. Tracy Mullen dropping 10. Thank you, Gary. Hi, everyone. God bless you all. Craig dropping 5, saying, awesome, we hit 1,100 likes, but if your like button is not filled in, it should be by now. Help Gary out, our favorite journalist. Thank you, Craig, sincerely. Our boy dropping $10 for the Alex Jones was right again jar. And then Lori B dropping $1. Thank you, Lori, for that. Thank you very much. Okay, we've got some more news to get to here. Okay, let's rock and roll. What terrifies the global elite more than anything? What partnership has them launching desperate attacks and fabricating lawsuits in a frantic attempt to stop what's coming? Well, right now I'm going to reveal exclusive details about a powerful alliance that's been formed. One that combines executive authority with technological genius in ways never before seen. Who did Elon Musk bring into the Department of Government Efficiency that has corrupt bureaucrats shaking in their boots? What ancient technologies are these wizards using to unravel decades of financial deception? Why are billions of dollars suddenly disappearing from NGO balance sheets? The revolution is happening behind closed doors, and it's going to change America forever, but we are opening those doors for you tonight. And while Elon and Trump battle the globalist hydra that's threatening American sovereignty, another battle is raging inside Americans' bodies. A shocking 2024 study reveals nearly half of all adults have high blood pressure, a silent crisis fueled by the same processed foods pushed by big corporations. That's why I use this incredible formula with clinically proven ingredients like white mulberry leaf and cinnamon bark powder. Just as Musk and Trump are fighting to reclaim America's independence, this product helps you reclaim control of your heart health. Experience up to 40% off at boostwithgary.com and reclaim your independence today. It's linked below. Yes, the globalist cabal has been exposed. Doge investigation uncovering massive corruption networks spanning NGOs, the Vatican, and the deep state elites launching desperate attacks while Musk launching rockets. The revolution they don't want you to see is happening right now. Liz Yore calls to Doge the Vatican. The Holy See is compromised by the globalist agents funneling your money to the radical left causes. The supposed spiritual leaders are working with the demonic elite to enslave humanity. The Vatican Bank scandal was only the beginning. Here is Liz Yore on Real America's Voice.
This demand that every single file of every predator that has been protected and elevated by Francis is exposed. Let's expose every Freemason who is a cardinal. Let's expose the entire word for word and 3 iterations of the China agreement. Let's expose that to the world. I mean, this is the time for, the Catholics are supposed to have a voice, right? Isn't that what Francis says? We're now supposed to be the synodal church. Well, get your voice and start fighting, because this is what the deep state is afraid of. They've had the moral voice of Francis for the last 12 years, Steve, and they have used it in climate change, in migration, in the transgender, in abortion. He has served as their moral voice. Well, no more. He's now going to be judged by God, despite not believing that, there's hell. Francis, thinks there's no hell. It is time now a Doge moment for the church? Yes. Open up the files. It is time to get rid of the filth. And by the way, that Vatican Bank, which was supposed to be examined by internal and external auditors and never was because Francis closed it down. Let's open up the Vatican Bank and let's see the $2 million a year or $2 billion a year grant from the Chinese Communist Party to the Holy See. I mean, enough is enough. If we're not going to fight this battle, then we ought to just submit to the deep state.
I'm 100% down, and we got to expose Parolin. I mean, Parolin is the top candidate right now. I mean, he's the guy that cut the deal with the Chinese. He's the worst of the worst in the henchmen, and also McCarrick's guy. We got to open up all the files of McCarrick and all these guys. They have to be opened up, and people got to say, hey, here's whoever was responsible. You finally got to open up and say, hey, let the chips fall where they may.
Right.
Because there's going to be some questions going back into John Paul. There's going to be some questions going back into Benedict. There's going to be some questions asked about people that look the other way. Well, you got to do it. How did McCarrick become the Pope of America? How did he become so powerful? A guy they ended up laicizing. Yes, ma'am.
And the ultimate question for our country is, did McCarrick and the Obama and Biden administration play a role in the color revolution of the Catholic Church? That is a defining question. If so, every single act, word, document that was produced by Pope Francis is null and void. Was there a color revolution in the Catholic Church coming out of the administration of Obama and Biden?
Peter Thiel demanding criminal prosecution of thousands of Democrats running NGOs exposed by Doge. The tech billionaire confirming what we've been saying. These are not charities, but money laundering operations for the global Marxist agenda. Check this out.
I've been a little bit shocked. I knew there was waste, but there seems like a lot of scams they're finding. I guess a lot more scams, than I
think there were scams. I think the nonprofit stuff is
the NGO stuff's out of control.
Is really out of control. It's sort of like, I don't know. It's sort of like virtue signaling is a sign that you're doing something evil.
Yeah.
And so much of this left-wing philanthropy nonprofit world, I think it was just a cover for, borderline criminal activity.
It's how you shield yourself. You have to put a virtue signal up while you're stealing money from everyone. Yeah.
There's one of the, and there's all this stuff you have to really go into the weeds of how this stuff works. But the way it was explained to me, there's sort of a level 5 description, which is a line item, description of what the actual dollars are going to. And then there are ways these things get summarized. And the way they got summarized for, a lot of the political appointees was a level 4 description. We summarize a bunch of level 5 descriptions as as an alternate, in a level 4 way. And then obviously there are ways, you can have, you can have 20 groups that are, providing food to Africa, different African countries. You can summarize that as food to Africa. That's maybe an accurate description. And then if they're actually all working on the Biden re-election, that's an inaccurate description. At some point, the descriptions are so inaccurate that the people in the government could be prosecuted for fraud.
Yeah.
And one of the people who looked at this a lot thinks you could just prosecute these people for fraud. This is something like this is what Oliver North was prosecuted for in the Iran-Contra scandal in the 80s. Was he mischaracterized the money and he mislabeled it, and it was like, he was accused of defrauding the government. And I think you could prosecute thousands of these people criminally for the thing that they wanted to prosecute Oliver North for in the 80s.
Follow the money. State Department, 94% left. USAID, 98% left. National Endowment for Democracy, 95% left. Yeah, listen to this.
At USAID, so we started looking at all political donations from the State Department. We looked at them for USAID. And what did we find? For State Department, it was like 94% went to the left. At USAID, it was like 98% that went to the left. National Endowment for Democracy, like 95% to the left. And then we started looking at all of the partners, the international NGOs, the contractors, and started looking at all of them, where the billions and billions are going. And 95, 98%. Even World Vision Catholic Relief Services, the vast majority, well over 90% of the political donations were going to the left. You look at the boards, they're all prominent people making very high salaries. So when you think about what's happened, the left, which was misusing USAID, and they're doing this across the federal government, misusing taxpayer money as a slush fund to finance their own people. Mm-hmm. And these are folks that can go out there, do the media, be the foot soldiers of the left, give money back. And so you had a one-sided uni-party apparatus here funding only one side of the political equation. And thank you, U.S. taxpayer.
Yeah, that's how it was working. The system is striking back. Fabricated lawsuit claims Tesla speeds up odometers. The same deep state agencies being exposed by Doge are now trying to destroy Elon's companies. This coordinated attack shows how terrified they are.
Tesla, has Tesla been altering odometers? Reuters had an article that said Tesla speeds up odometers to avoid warranty repairs. And essentially, the plaintiff in the lawsuit said that the odometer was running 15% fast. Now, full disclosure, I do own a Tesla, although I'm probably going to get rid of it soon because I miss my Ford Ranger and I like having a light truck. Now, the question is whether this is true, and the answer to that is maybe. Let's take a deep dive on this. If this were happening across the board, rental companies that actually rent Teslas would probably notice, especially since the job of a rental car company is to rent cars and kind of know the average mileage of a car over a year. They do resell these things. So if Tesla were doing this, it would probably show up at the rental car companies first, as opposed to people who just bought Teslas. And if you were Tesla, who would you be more afraid of, Hertz or some dude who owns a Model Y? And second, people who use their cars for business and track their mileage, using tools like Mile IQ that track your driving, could notice this when they submit their mileage to the federal government for their taxes around this time of year. So is it possible that Tesla could do this from a technical standpoint? Yes, it's possible. It's even possible that Tesla can automatically turn off any kind of mileage adjustment on rental vehicles. That way they don't get caught by the rental companies. But they don't know who's using these cars for business and tracking their travel with an app. And that's where the real evidence is going to come from if it's true. So if you have a Tesla and you use it primarily for business, compare what you have on your odometer with the books that you're submitting to the IRS this year, and that should give you a good indicator if Tesla really is altering the odometer.
Wow. Trump and Elon were spotted at the Trump National Golf Club, forming the alliance that will save America, the two most powerful patriots, joining forces as the globalists in panic mode. Check this out.
Bring your tax. God bless you, Trump. I love the hat. Elon, keep doing what you're doing on Twitter. Keep doing it. I love it.
Oh, you gotta love seeing that kind of stuff. The Hollywood elites, what's up with them? Attacking Hannity, destroying Disney CEO Bob Iger for his vile comments about Elon and Melania. The woke entertainment cartel that poisons your children's minds is terrified of the Trump-Musk alliance, and their propaganda machine is crumbling. Let's take a listen to what Hannity's talking about.
Languages. When he made the comments about Elon Musk, I went after him. I'm like, really, Bob Iger, you're the CEO of woke DEI Disney. Do you approve that message joking about domestic terrorism? Just like when he went after Melania Trump, the woman speaks 6 languages. English is her 6th language. She's reading to children, and he starts making fun of her accent. I mean, you're just an asshole to do that. And I went hard at him, and I made him apologize to me before I'd ever give up. That's how deep in the pain I went against him.
Let's keep going here. Elon hired Doge wizards who use AI to read burnt scrolls from Pompeii. Did you hear about this? Genius-level minds are now unraveling the corrupt NGO money web. While the deep state hires diversity consultants, Elon finds actual geniuses to expose their crimes.
Fund the government. See people ignoring certain core facts. Like, this is the most fascinating thing about this U.S. aid thing to me, is how people on the left are completely ignoring all the rampant, obvious corruption and conflicts of interest in the government funding non-government organizations that in turn fund the government. Like, that's so crazy. And anybody that doesn't think that's crazy, it's like, what do you love money influencing everything in your daily life? Don't you think that maybe we have a problem in that we have a huge deficit. And if part of our huge deficit, we're spending fucking billions of dollars every year on horse shit.
Yeah. I mean, that is my issue with people being like, see, it is the like political thing isn't right, which is true. It's important to be accurate, but it's also like, yeah, but there's this money shouldn't be spent this way.
No.
So just because this thing is maybe not true, you're pointing to this one thing that could be people are misrepresenting, but there's a much bigger problem you seem to want to just sweep under the rug and say, oh, like you guys are just crazy for noticing all these connections. But didn't they make them stop or something? Did they freeze their ability
USA's
to?
Frozen. Yeah.
These kids are nuts. That guy who like found the scroll, how to read the scroll from Pompeii.
Scrolls from Pompeii, yeah, using AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're wizards. That's the kind of people that you want digging into this stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why Elon got them. I mean, he knows what the fuck he's doing.
Government dripping with fat. Let Elon do his thing. The biz mogul confirming what Doge is finding billions in wasted taxpayer money funneled to leftist causes. Elon's Hoover will clean out decades of corruption. Here is Mr. Wonderful.
I thought he'd get up. What do you make of Elon Musk going through Washington right now with a Hoover?
I'm okay with it. And I think the American people are okay with it. Everybody knows the dirty little secret about government. It drips with fat. No one's ever done an exercise like this. I thought he'd get a lot more pushback from Congress, and he's not. He's going in there with a spatula, and he's scraping out billions of dollars, and people are okay with it. After all, it's taxpayers' money. Right. Why not do this? If you sit around your kitchen table, you got to have a budget every year. Right. Why can't we apply the same kind of philosophy to government? And that's why he's getting a lot of latitude and a lot of slack, even though he's a controversial guy. But look at the executional skills he has.
Sure.
There's nobody like him. Let him do his thing.
Amen. While fighting the deep state, Elon's still revolutionizing space. SpaceX flawlessly launches and lands another rocket. The same corrupt systems trying to destroy him can't match his genius. Yeah, I love watching these SpaceX launches and landings.
On landing burn.
There is the start of our stage 1 landing burn. We're now waiting for Falcon 9 to make that precision landing.
Deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
What a beautiful view of that stage 1 landing. And there you have it.
On landing burn.
Absolute amazing to watch that stuff. Relevant data is the most precious thing worth blowing up rockets to get. This mentality is what makes Doge so effective. While the NGOs hide their finances, Elon's team is blowing up their security to get priceless data on their corruption.
Sends it. Feedback beats planning. SpaceX has taken an ultra important principle from software engineering, realized it applies to all engineering, and that, you see, is why SpaceX doesn't do things the NASA way, test and plan and test and generate mountains of paper detailing every contingency. SpaceX just shrugs. It's unmanned and sends it. Half the time it blows up. That possibility is part of the plan because one rocket blowing up or crashing is an actual end-to-end test. Relevant data is the most precious thing in the universe, and it's worth blowing up any number of rockets to get it because rockets are just stuff. They're just made of stuff. You can always get more stuff. You can never get more time. It just means we're doing it cowboy style.
Oracle founder Larry Ellison defends Elon. You're saying he's an idiot? The guy's landing rockets. Who are you?
I work for the Wall Street Journal. Elon doesn't know what he's doing. He's going to have to go out for money. I'm really smart. I work for the Wall Street Journal. And I said, who are you? This guy's landing rockets. You know, he's landing rockets on you know, robot drone rafts in the ocean. And you're saying he doesn't know what he's doing. Well, who else is landing rockets? You ever land a rocket? Okay, you're telling me he's an idiot. I just want to know who you are so I know. Why should I believe you as opposed to my friend Elon, and we're out here watching this rocket land, and which I think is really cool. And you're there in front of your, you know, your Apple Macintosh and typing up an article saying Elon's an idiot. I had to get that.
While fighting the corruption, Elon also creates life-changing tech. We can attach Optimus arms during Neuralink implants. The medical industry complex that profits from your suffering is terrified. What?
Actually attach an
Long term also is to say, if you take parts of the Optimus humanoid robot and you combine that with a Neuralink, let's say somebody has lost their arms or legs, well, we could actually attach an Optimus arm or Optimus legs and do a Neuralink implant so that the motor commands from your brain that would go to your biological arms now go to your robot arms or robot legs. And again, you'd have basically cybernetic superpowers.
Actually, so the
long term also is to say, if you take
patriotic courage, Trump supporter in MAGA hats standing fearless among thousands of hostile protesters. This is the spirit of resistance that Elon and Trump are inspiring.
Pull up and say you look like
I am.
That was rude of her.
Well, you know, the Trump derangement syndrome. Fair enough. It's not going to change. We'll see.
I like how relaxed you are.
If it's anti-Israel, I'm not for it.
The Great Awakening is here. Doge exposing corrupt NGOs, Elon's team unraveling the money trails while the Trump-Musk alliance terrifies the global elite from the Vatican to the deep state. The entire system is being exposed. Follow next news for the truth they don't want you to see. Tesla speeds up odometers? What? Is that really happening? I don't know. But those are the claims being made. But Elon Musk isn't just building rockets, he's rebuilding transparency. While his AI wizards at Doge unravel a complex web of NGO money laundering that's been siphoning American tax dollars to fund radical leftist agendas worldwide, his companies keep innovating despite unprecedented attacks. As Oracle founder Larry Ellison put it, you're saying he's an idiot? The guy's landing rockets. Who are you? And that's the question we should be asking all the so-called experts who spent years telling us to trust the system while they weaponize it against us. From Neuralink-enabled prosthetics to AI systems that decode ancient scrolls, Musk represents what America does best: innovation, determination, and refusing to back down. Is the Musk-Trump alliance the partnership that finally breaks the globalist stronghold on American power? Or is this just the beginning of an even more profound revolution? Comment below. And show your support with our MAGAvengers gear, available at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, linked below. All right, where are we going from here? Super chats coming in fast. What is up? We've got Tom B420 dropping $5. N3 Army for life. Teganix fur popping in Discord other night. Thanks for popping in Discord. Yes, I did. I did actually pop in on Discord last week, right after the show. Yeah, maybe I'll drop in tonight. But that's obviously only a members only feature. And yeah, you guys saw me. I showed you some of the behind the scenes stuff here in the studio, showed you my desk, showed you the cameras and lights and everything, showed you some of the awards I've received and pictures, personal photographs of different things throughout my career. And it was really cool to see how you guys actually see your faces, hear your voices. It was super cool. I see your names all the time in the chat room. But to actually put faces and voices to those names was something very special. So maybe you'll see me tonight. You never know. Okay, we got more news to get to, but actually, no, we have more super chats to get to. Curio23, Mashi Misfits, keep independent journalism going. My 3 cents. 2 for Gary, 1 for Texas. $4.99. Nancy Pelosi's liver's here. Adam Schiff is looking at being indicted for election fraud, mortgage fraud, and voter fraud. Please look into it. Well, that's something. Todd, make a note, please, for that one. Also, Tom B420, here's another 5 for having to read my misspelled first one, and 3 for life. Thanks, Tom. And Squeeze a Lot dropping 5. Illegal terrorist gladiator fights where proceeds go to victims' families, hosted in El Salvador. I would pay for that. Mongoose dropping 25. Gary, thank you so much for the entertainment and the education we get with every podcast. Psalms 92 to you and the chat. Well, thank you for that, Mongoose. Amen. Okay, moving on to our 5th topic of the evening. Rubio. Sitting down. What is going on? While the media obsesses over tweets and palace intrigues, something monumental is happening in American foreign policy that they refuse to cover. Tonight, we're going to bring you explosive revelations from inside the State Department that will reshape your understanding of global politics. Secretary Rubio has pulled back the curtain on developments so significant they could alter the course of multiple international conflicts. What do Putin's representatives say behind closed doors that shocked even veteran diplomats? And why are certain Middle Eastern leaders suddenly panicking? And what radical restructuring is happening to agencies that have operated unchecked for decades? The geopolitical earthquake you won't hear about anywhere else starts now. And as Secretary Rubio works to navigate global conflicts and build a foreign policy that puts America first, many of us are still dealing with unpredictable spring temperature swings at home. Just like Trump's targeted approach to solving international crises, this portable heater I'm holding right here delivers precision warmth exactly where you need it without wasting energy heating your entire house. Perfect for those diplomatic early mornings or late nights monitoring global developments. This compact device warms any room in minutes. It's built with the same efficiency and focus that Trump demands from his foreign policy team. Save 60% off at SaveWarmNow.com while supporting American energy independence. You'll find it linked down below. So let's jump into what happened with Marco Rubio exposing foreign gangs invading our cities, the deep state cover-up of directed energy weapons, plus Trump's master plan for world peace. Let's dive deep. Pure evil exposed. Hamas kidnapped and murdered innocent infants while their demonic supporters cheer in the streets. This is not government. It's a death cult that must be examined. The bodies of a mother and her babies prove what we've been saying all along. Marco Rubio.
Infant children. As we sit down today, Hamas has released bodies of 4 Israeli hostages, said to include a mother and 2 children. Your thoughts?
I think it's a reminder of who Hamas really is. I mean, just think about the fact they went in, they grabbed this family, this young woman, her 2 infant children. I think one was only 4 years old, the other one was 1. And then, and it's not just that they did it and that they died in their captivity. Who does that? I mean, who kidnaps families? And then the way even that they were released, you know, with people cheering in the streets, it just tells you who we're dealing with Hamas. This is not a government. This is not simply an ideological movement. These are evil, terrible people. And the idea that they would ever be allowed to continue to have arms, to be militarized and to control territory anywhere in the world is unfathomable. So our hearts break for these families. You can't be happy that remains are returned, but that's very important to these families. From a religious standpoint, it's a sacred thing. But I think to everybody else, it's a reminder as well of who we're talking about here when we talk about Hamas.
One of the Israeli government's objectives is the destruction of Hamas. You see some of these pictures, they suggest some strength. What does the intelligence tell us?
Well, I would never discuss intelligence, but I can tell you Hamas is weaker than they once were. They clearly have enough people to put on these shows. They clearly have enough people to still be a threat at some level, but they can't be allowed to reconstitute. Hamas cannot be allowed to once again be a group that can do 3 things: terrorize the people of Gaza, attack Israel, and actually be a government or anything like a government anywhere in the world. They just can't.
As we sit down.
Yeah, tell that to the protesters in the street. Yes, he confirmed Hamas is weaker but still dangerous. That they cannot be allowed to control territory or their forces. The fake news won't show you the celebration of
4 Israeli hostages.
He revealed new details about the U.S.-Russia talks, direct engagement with Ukraine, the U.S. proposal for Gaza, plus Iran, China, and the emerging role of independent media.
As we sit down today, Hamas has released the bodies of 4 Israeli hostages, said to include a mother and 2 children. Your thoughts?
I think it's a reminder of who Hamas really is. I mean, just think about the fact they went in, they grabbed this family, this young woman, her 2 infant children. I think one was only 4 years old, the other one was 1. And then, and it's not just that they did it and that they died in their captivity. Who does that? I mean, who kidnaps family?
And a COVID truth bomb. Even State Department now admits that the accident in Wuhan was from the Chinese labs playing with engineered viruses funded by Western money.
So I think, in my view, based on everything I have seen, that the likeliest situation here was that the Chinese were messing around with a virus, somebody caught it in a lab, and they took this novel virus and spread it through China and then spread it to the world. And it was devastating. And there needs to be accountability for that.
I was just going to say, there really has been no accountability for the CCP.
The accountability begins by proving it. And it's hard to do, right? Because the Chinese are not necessarily going to open their books. Look, if that had happened in the United States, if that had happened in some other country in the world, that country would have probably been forthcoming and said, we had a problem, guys, we were messing around with this stuff, and look what happened. They would have shared that information, and we could have worked very quickly, much faster than we were able to figure out how to counteract it. And they didn't. Instead, what they did is clam up and refuse to share information with the world, and then this thing spread and just ravaged the global economy. Just think about how many people died, how many businesses went out, how much money we had to spend in this country just to keep Main Street open when we had the shutdowns, how divisive it became. Some of that could have been prevented if they had been forthcoming. But instead, like most authoritarian regimes, they clammed up and they held that information back.
And some people believe that it was intentionally released. Weapon cover-up confirmed diplomats with brain damage, like they were hit with baseball bats. This is no mass hysteria. The deep state has been hiding the truth about directed energy weapons targeting Americans. Now the State Department admitting the attacks were real.
Hysteria.
Have directed energy weapons been used against U.S. government personnel?
Oh, I do not believe in the conclusions that we've seen in the past, and I think evidence in time will prove me correct, that these things happened by accident, that these things were a result of mass hysteria or some pre-existing conditions. Now, in some cases, maybe, but I have no doubt in my mind that something caused people to be suffering from these things in different posts around the world, not just limited to Havana. There's a lot of work still going on. I think we're going to learn a lot more about it over the next few years as more work goes into it. But I've met some of these people. I've interacted with them for years. And I can't explain every case, but I think there are most definitely cases where there is no logical explanation other than the fact that some external mechanism caused them to suffer brain injuries that in many cases look like they were hit over the head with a baseball bat or assaulted somewhere. We can't ignore that. And in the meantime, what we have to ensure is that whether they were State Department personnel or working for some other agency, that those people are getting the treatment and the support that they need. And it's a top commitment of mine to make sure these are people we sent abroad to serve our country. They were harmed in the service of our country, and they deserve our ongoing support, not being accused of things like mass hysteria or, they're just...
It's government gaslighting.
Well, I think it's outrageous. And I don't know what the intent was behind that, but ultimately, this State Department is going to be transparent with them. Anything we know, they will know. And in the meantime, we are going to assume the worst, and we're going to treat them as if they were victims. No matter what, we're going to treat them as they were people that were harmed by serving our country overseas.
Now, if you don't know what he's talking about Havana syndrome. Multiple cases several years back where members of the government were working in Cuba, and they suddenly fell ill after some kind of now they're calling it a directed energy attack from some kind of foreign entity. And they've never been the same since. Massive cover-up ever since then, and now it's finally coming to light. Deadly Venezuelan prison gangs invading America. Tren de Aragua terrorized South America is here. We've been warning it forever, and now here's Secretary Rubio discussing it more.
Just naming them and...
How often are you in the Oval at the White House for the big decisions?
Well, I don't know about how often. I'm there pretty often. Just came from there right before I met with you here now. We're working on, even as we're working through all these reforms in the department, we're also out there trying to realign American foreign policy, whether it's my trip to the Western Hemisphere. Just naming them and understanding that they're a problem. Tren de Aragua, TDA, is a group I follow. That was a prison gang in Venezuela. The Venezuelan regime sort of pushed them out of the country. They terrorized Peru, they terrorized Ecuador, they terrorized all kinds of countries, and they worked their way up the migration path into the United States. And I've been warning about them now for a year and a half. I think I might have been the first member of Congress, maybe of the U.S. government, to actually identify them by name. And so I think those designations are important, and it gives us a valuable tool to cut off any partnerships they may have, not just with U.S. nationals, but any other businesses or individuals around the world that are assisting them in what they're doing. And it's not just the gang, it's the drug trafficking organizations that operate out of Mexico, too.
Does the foreign terrorist organization, does the FTO designation, does that move the U.S. government a step closer to using military force against the cartels?
Well, it depends where they're located. Obviously, in the case of Mexico, the preference always is to work in conjunction with our partners in Mexico. And we can provide them a lot of information about who they are and where they're located. If in the end these people pose an imminent threat to the United States or cross into our borders and into the United States, then it gives us tools to go after them using law enforcement, using DHS, using ICE, using the FBI, the DEA, and whatever agencies we have available. Well, there was no ground. I mean, it was all off. We had no, there are three things that people have to understand. The first is, even at the height of the Cold War, even in the worst days of the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union had communication. And the reason why, if you want to be mature and grown-ups about it, I'm not a fan of most of what Vladimir Putin has done, and that's largely irrelevant when it comes to statecraft, because we ultimately have to be able to talk to a nation that has, in some cases, the largest tactical nuclear weapon stockpile in the world, and the second largest, if not the largest, strategic nuclear weapon stockpile in the world. So you have to have, I mean, at the end, whether we like it or not, Russia is a power, a global power, and they're involved and engaged in Syria. They've been involved and engaged in the Middle East, even in the Western Hemisphere, certainly in Europe. We have to have some communication with them. So step one is our embassy in Moscow is barely functioning. I mean, it literally barely operates because it's been denied access to the banking system. That has to be fixed. But if we close our mission in Russia, we have to close their mission here. And then we really have no communication with them, whether it's a detained American or some other item.
Nuclear confrontation looms while our Moscow embassy barely functions. Even during the Cold War, as you heard, we maintained communication with the Soviets. Peace is an action, not a noun. Trump is the only leader who can end the Ukraine war while globalists push for endless conflict.
Then let's. And so really, as much as anything else, this meeting was, are you interested in even talking about ending the war? If you are, then let's create a process where we can begin to engage at a technical level. And that process will now, at some point, be set up and begin. The demands they make for ending the war are maximalist and unrealistic, then I think we have our answer. If, on the other hand, there's any opportunity to pursue peace, we have to do it. And I think people have, I really am sort of puzzled, generally, in diplomacy. People who are seeking to end the killing and the harming of thousands and thousands of people in war are usually celebrated for an effort to end the war. If it was just the Vatican who was involved in these talks, who would criticize it? For the President of the United States to be engaged in finding whether there's the possibility of peace should be celebrated, not condemned. And so really...
Zelensky rejected Trump's help after begging for billions.
Whether they're serious about peace or not, we're just not at that stage yet.
When President Trump posts that President Zelensky is a dictator without elections, what are you thinking?
I think President Trump is very upset at President Zelensky, and in some cases, and rightfully so. Look, number one, Joe Biden had frustrations with Zelensky. People shouldn't forget it. There are newspaper articles out there about how he cursed at him in a phone call because Zelensky, instead of saying thank you for all your help, is immediately out there messaging what we're not doing or what he's not getting. I think the second thing is, frankly, I was personally very upset because we had a conversation with President Zelensky, the Vice President and I, three of us. And we discussed this issue about the mineral rights. And we explained to them, look, we want to be in a joint venture with you, not because we're trying to steal from your country, but because we think that's actually a security guarantee. If we're your partner in an important economic endeavor, we get to get paid back some of the money the taxpayers have given, close to $200 billion. And it also, now we have a vested interest in the security of Ukraine. And he said, sure, we want to do this deal. It makes all the sense in the world. The only thing is I need to run it through my legislative process. They have to approve it. I read 2 days later that Zelensky's out there saying, I rejected the deal. I told him, no way, that we're not doing that. Well, that's not what happened in that meeting. So you start to get upset by somebody. We're trying to help these guys. One of the points the president made in his messaging is not that we don't care about Ukraine, but Ukraine is on another continent. You know, it doesn't directly impact the daily lives of Americans. We care about it because it has implications for our allies and ultimately for the world. There should be some level of gratitude here about this. And when you don't see it and you see him out there accusing the president of living in a world of disinformation, that's very counterproductive. And I don't need to explain to you or anybody else, President Trump's not the kind of person that's going to sit there and take that. He's very transparent. He's going to tell you exactly how he feels. And he sent a message that he's not going to get gamed here. He's willing to work on peace because he cares about Ukraine. And he hopes Zelensky will be a partner in that, and not someone who's out there putting this sort of counter messaging to try to, hustle us in that regard. That's not going to be productive here.
What's the timeline for a meeting between President Trump and President Putin?
Well, that topic came up in our conversation with the Russians, and what I said, I know that now they're saying that they said it, but we actually said it, and that is, well, there isn't going to be a meeting until we know what the meeting's going to be about. I mean,
do you expect it later in 2025?
I don't know the timing of it, but a meeting between President Putin and President Trump has to a meeting about something. We have to know what that meeting is about, what's going to be achieved at it. You don't generally have these meetings until you know some outcome or some progress has been made. So I think when that meeting happens will largely depend on whether we can make any progress on ending the war in Ukraine. And if we can, and that meeting is what seals the deal, I think everybody should celebrate that President Trump is a peacemaker.
Only Trump can stop the nuclear Iran. The European globalists failed miserably. Iran is behind every terrorist group in the Middle East, Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, all funded by Iranian regime. Trump's maximum pressure is the only solution to crush their terror network. Here's more from Rubio.
On its third year, the only global leader.
Why do you say he's the only one?
Well, because others have tried and have failed. There was an effort in Istanbul a couple years ago, and it involved a number of European countries, and it failed. It didn't lead to a result. No, this war is now going on its third year. What global leader now could engage in this and actually even bring Putin to the table? Maybe we're not successful either, but right now we're the only ones that, through President Trump, that have any chance. Maybe the chance is 1%, I don't know. Maybe the chance is 90%, but he's the only one that can even test that proposition. And everyone should recognize that and celebrate the fact that he's willing to do that early in his presidency. He's willing to do it. No one else is willing to do it, and no one else right now apparently can.
You were also in Israel in recent days, and when you were in Israel, you said there will be no nuclear Iran. How far is the Trump administration willing to go to stop a nuclear Iran?
Well, ultimately, I think President Trump has been clear. We're not going to discuss tactics or measures. He's issued an executive order to once again return to the maximum pressure, primarily because we've seen that Iran uses, the Iranian regime, let me be clear, I'm not talking about the Iranian people, the regime, they use any money that they make to fund their weapons programs, to fund their sponsorship of terrorism. If you look at all of the destabilizing things that are happening in the Middle East, the Houthis and their attack on global shipping, Hamas, Hezbollah, the militias in Iraq that attack both Israel and the U.S. presence there, the anti-ISIS presence that we have, all of them are sponsored by money from Iran. They're behind all of this. And so why would we allow them to make any more money that they can use to sponsor these things? Now, how we prevent a nuclear Iran, I'm not going to discuss the options that are available to us or anyone else for that matter, but I want to be abundantly clear, the Iranian regime can never be a regime that's behind all of this. The only global...
USAID exposed as the global slush fund operating like a shell game. This is not a global charity. It's your tax dollars being funneled to globalist pet projects. Here's more.
It's the truth, and we have more work to do.
Do you have any regrets about the shuttering of USAID?
No, it's not regret. Look, I wish we'd had more cooperation. I know people at USAID don't like to hear that, but it's the truth. And I'm going to go back to my time in Congress. Okay, I've had two problems with AID going back to my time in Congress. I'm not against foreign aid. I've supported foreign aid. We're going to do foreign aid. No one here is saying we're going to have
so
a
some
zero.
Programs will survive.
Absolutely, and some already have. You know, we've issued waivers for PEPFAR as an example, and others. That's not the question. As a member of Congress, when you wanted to ask, well, who is operating this program? Because sometimes it goes from a program and then they give it to a third person. That third person
sounds like a shell game.
But that's the only way we're going to get to the bottom of this. We have to answer this is American taxpayer money. The idea that USAID is some sort of global charity that's out there, you know, serving the interest of the global community. No, it's called the USAID. In the United States, it's our taxpayer money. That should also be aligned with the national interest. Look, that's just part of the stuff that happens in Washington, and the columnists and people write stuff. I didn't even know that story was out there. I'm just focused on doing my job. I feel pretty busy, and I know we're pretty busy. We have more work to do.
And the deep state meltdown continues. Trump freezing the corrupt USAID programs.
Contractors are.
Sounds like a shell game.
It can be, and so that's what we're trying to get them uncooperative. In some cases, we're even trying to push payments through the system to get operation in that regard. And so the result was, and this was before I became acting, but even after, some of those people that became uncooperative, in some cases, were even trying to push payments through the system to get around the freeze. That we have to address. And so I think it's unfortunate because the ideal way would have been, but this to go through it the way I've just described. But this is an agency, frankly, at least in some levels, that has been largely uncooperative and completely unaligned with the State Department. We have embassies where USAID and the embassy work very well together. And we have embassies where the embassy is working on one mission and USAID is working on a completely different mission that's in contradiction with what the State Department's directive is in that nation. That has to be fixed. So ideally, we would have fixed it in a way that would have been, different. But when you run into passive aggressive and in some cases aggressive opposition to your work,
wow,
that requires you to now go in and put a stop to everything. And so that's the process we've had to follow, unfortunately. But that's the only way we're going to get to the bottom of this.
Sounds like a shell game.
Wow, that's crazy. USAID working in complete opposition to the embassies around the world. Tax dollars funding programs with zero oversight, but Trump has issued waivers.
It's important.
A month ago, you hit pause on most of the foreign aid. Is that review nearing completion?
Well, part of that review is issuing waivers. So I think we've issued over 250 waivers. And that means someone comes forward and says, this program is really important. It's important. It can be justified. It's aligned with the national interest. We issue a waiver for it. I'll give you real world examples. We were in Guatemala and we came across a program where we are helping train Guatemalans to identify the precursors of fentanyl and intercept it, to help us extradite drug dealers that we're trying to get a hold of. And we issued a waiver for that program because that's clearly aligned, right? What is our national interest? We want to prevent fentanyl from reaching the streets, and we want to take the people responsible for trafficking in it, and if they're wanted, bring them to the United States to stand trial and serve prison sentences. We also issued a blanket waiver for emergency humanitarian support, food, medicine, housing, things where there's a crisis somewhere in the world. And that's an ongoing process. And I think before the 90-day period is up, we'll have a real good insight into all the foreign aid we do. I know it's been disruptive for some programs, but I think in the long term it's going to be beneficial because we'll be able to say that every program that we are out there operating serves the national interest because it makes us stronger or more prosperous or safer. That's the process we're trying to go through, and we go through it on a daily basis.
Massive restructuring going on at the State Department to fight human trafficking and mass migration. The biggest threat to every Western nation. The globalists created the crisis, and Trump is fixing it.
Our hope is, and that's how we're trying to align, even as we have to do our job on a daily basis, is what our hope is to align and give the State Department clear missions from the field, meaning our embassies and people out across the world, all the way to the 7th floor where I work.
What are your directions for the first 100 days?
Well, I think we really view it as more than a 100-day project. But as we've gone in and done it, one of the things we're looking for on restructuring is our bureaus. We have our policy bureaus, they're geographically based, and then we also have our functional bureaus. And that human rights, and for example, there's a bureau for trafficking, human trafficking, there's a bureau for migration. I think those issues are interrelated. So one of the things we're working through, we haven't made a decision yet, is whether that bureau should be consolidated into a bureau, and what's our national interest, that prevents migration and prevents trafficking, not facilitates migration and mass migration, which is not just a challenge to the United States, by the way. It's one of the leading issues in Europe. We just came back from the Munich Security Conference. Every country in Europe is facing the challenge of mass migration, but it's really putting strain on virtually every country in the world is facing migration challenges, every developed country in the world. So that's just an example of the kinds of realignments that we're looking to make, and we want to do it in a thoughtful and careful way, but also in an expeditious way. We can't move too slowly either, because then it just won't happen. And
so Rubio's revelations show us a president who understands something fundamental. Peace isn't passive. It must be actively pursued, but from a position of strength and not weakness. With Hamas, Trump's approach is unflinching. As Rubio put it, this is not a government. These are evil, terrible people. There will be no appeasement of terrorists. With Ukraine, Trump is the only global leader capable of bringing Putin to the table while demanding accountability from Zelensky after $200 billion in American aid. With Iran, the massive pressure campaign has returned, striking at the heart of their terror network. And at home, USAID and the State Department are being realigned to actually serve American interests, not globalist agenda. So, here's a question for you. Is this new foreign policy direction the America First approach Trump has promised all along, or is this the beginning of a realignment that will reshape global politics for decades to come? Drop a comment and represent the Next News Network by grabbing a hat or a t-shirt at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. You'll find it linked in the description below. Okay, what do we got here? Steve Frizzle $1.57, dropping $1.99. Thank you, Steve Frizzle. And then Squeeze a Lot, another $5. Like how fast does a bird run underwater on a treadmill with an oxygen mask and a weight vest? There goes the $500,000 grant. USAID, RIP. Yeah. Thankfully. It blows my mind when you think about how USAID actively working in contrast to the agenda of embassies around the world. It doesn't surprise me, though. All right. We got some more news to get into tonight. Going into our sixth topic of the evening. What is it? The independent media is rising. Oh, hey, Craig. $2. What is he saying? 1,800 likes. I found my new job, Gary. Thank you, Craig. You sure did. Right on. And we're $121 in chat revenue, but only one new member. That's really weird. Okay. I guess Juan isn't feeling generous tonight. Is Juan even here? Okay. Let's go. What happens when independent voices break through the barriers of legacy media control? When millions of viewers finally get direct access to the halls of power without corporate filters? Well, tonight we reveal the seismic shift that's happening in journalism that has establishment media figures visibly uncomfortable. Who's making history as the first YouTuber officially credentialed in the White House press corps? And why are corporate journalists less than thrilled to see independent media in their midst? What shocking admissions are former insiders making about the true nature of what they once defended as journalism? Well, the revolution in media that Ivory Hecker calls prayers being answered is happening. It's happening now, and you are witnessing it firsthand. Are you ready to learn? Well, independent media breaks through establishment barriers to bring you unfiltered truth. Millions of Americans are breaking free from another monopoly, big energy companies. Just as the next news network bypasses corporate media filters, this revolutionary device bypasses the utility company's price manipulation. When plugged into any outlet, it stabilizes electrical currents and reduces the dirty electricity that inflates your bills. As we fight for information independence in the White House press room, you can claim energy independence in your home. Get 65% off at don'twastepower.com while supplies last, because breaking monopolies starts with everyday Americans taking back control. All right, what is going on? Well, here is a live look at the White House right now. I will be returning in just a few days. That's right, I'll be back at the glorious grounds where President Trump is making history. And even more, what is happening? Well, let's get into it. Because the bombshell media revolution is happening. The establishment's panicking. Independent journalists are infiltrating the White House press corps. The globalist media monopoly is crumbling as Trump's FCC turns the screws on big tech censorship. This is the great awakening they tried to prevent. There's me, as I was departing the White House, pointing out Caitlin Collins about to do her news hit. Now, let's jump into this here. Here's Ivory Hecker discussing the next news network making history as the first YouTube channel with 2 million subscribers to secure White House press credentials. The days of mainstream media gatekeepers controlling the narrative is over. The revolution will not be televised, it will be live streamed.
To that, now we have independent I just want to express my gratitude for where we're at in the country with our freedom and our free press compared to a few years ago when there was so much fear that the freedom and the free press was being taken away. I think a lot of people prayed and fought. Their prayers were answered and their fight was rewarded. And so I want to salute that and the fact that now we have independent journalists in the White House press corps. My friend Gary Franchi is making history this year covering the White House in person there for his own independent YouTube channel. And he said something that was really pertinent from the White House press room the other day when he acknowledged that these adversaries who are trying to take away freedom don't like individual liberty, don't like free speech. They're hoping that where we're at right now, we lose momentum. And it is so key that we don't.
They are praying that we lose momentum, that we get comfortable, that we squander this opportunity. We cannot let that happen. So if you are an independent journalist, keep going. If you're a citizen reporter, keep digging. If you're a viewer, a reader, a listener, support this movement and share the truth, because there is no turning back. For the first time in history, the media belongs to the people. And we are never going to give it up again.
As you know, I've shifted a lot of my focus to educating independent journalists, news influencers, instead of doing all the news myself to get more boots on the ground. So if you want to join my next class of students next month, you can comment news below and I will send you more info. And I would love to have you be my mentee and empower you in any way I can.
Ivory's launching her own educational platform. Super cool. I recently did an interview with her, and these are some of the clips that she highlighted from them. So I thought, I should share them with you because you may not have seen some of these clips. But she says, when she made this post, she says, I went from being so concerned about free press fading away to seeing independent media rise to fill the gap. The prayers were answered and the fight was rewarded.
In person there for his own independent YouTube channel. And he's...
Oh, did I play that already? I must have. Okay, here's more. Now here's some more from that interview. Trump's Federal Communications Commissioner is turning the screws on social media. Listen to me. Listen to me. Now, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, if you were to go into YouTube and a news platform, I would have told you you're crazy. I said, don't even bother. It's such a minefield. But now it's completely changed, Ivory.
So they've loosened up with the censorship?
Oh, without question, I believe they 100%. Because Trump's Federal Communications Commissioner is really turning the screws on social media and the suppression of conservative voices on those platforms, whether it's YouTube, X, Facebook, or wherever, or Instagram. So they know that they can't get away with the same stuff. And especially when you have people like myself in the press room, I have direct access to the president. I have direct access to the press secretary. I can put my grievances or the grievances of others. Like, for example, I was talking to a pilot today and he was asking me about tariffs and the impact of tariffs and airplane parts for maintenance. And I said, I can just email the press secretary and see if we can get an answer for you. The same thing goes for the censorship thing. If there's something that happens, I could walk right into the press secretary's office and I can say, I just want to bring this to your attention. Do you have a comment that YouTube did this, this, and this? Boom. Mm-hmm. Now we've let the White House know, and it's on the record. So the game is completely changed, Ivory. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, and that's a fact. And the establishment media meltdown. Elite journalists losing their minds. Why? Because I'm broadcasting from the press room. You can't do that. Here's my recount of my moment in the press room. What? You talking to me? Yeah, I'm talking to you. What? What did I do wrong? I'm going to go tell on you. Listen, there must have been 20 people from different press outlets all sitting in front of me. And I'm just tearing into Biden. I'm saying how horrible his open border policy was, criticizing Sleepy Joe. I mean, I don't care. I don't give a shit anymore. These people, they're going to hear the message, pardon my language, but they're going to hear it. As I'm doing this, I can hear this woman, oh my, ooh, she's getting all worked up. And in the middle of my hit, she comes walking right in front of me, and she goes running around to the press room to rat me out that I'm standing at the podium. Press room comes out. They're like, yeah, you can't stand there. You can stand offset, but you can't stand direct in front. And then she made this big scene. She's wearing her mask, and she's going, you can't do that. Like, she's literally yapping. She's going, you can yap here, but you can't yap here. And I had another experience with the pool, the White House pool. You got the portrait of George Washington that was rescued during the War of 1812 by Dolly Madison hanging on the wall right next to you. I mean, you are in the middle of history in that room. So they're getting angry with me, these press guys, because you can't be here. You can't. This is for pool. I'm like, no, it's not. It's for everybody. You know. So they try to make your life hard. And I go, hey, I want to thank you for giving me that advice in the press room. Really helpful. Really appreciate that. And then when Yamashi gives me a hard time at the podium, and she's blowing her gasket, I go, hey, I want to thank you for giving me the tip. I didn't know. I really appreciate that. Here's the outcome of that moment. I'm just finishing up my hit, and I see all this commotion, and I'm like, well, something must be happening outside. So I grab my camera, and I run outside, and Yamashi comes walking towards me, and she goes, you missed it. But it wasn't, she didn't say you missed it with glee or malice. She said it with, as a colleague, you missed it. And I could have gone the other route with these people. I could have given them holy hell, you know, because I don't take crap lightly. But there are certain times where you have to kind of pull back and just play the game. And she came to me and she said, you know, you missed it. And that's when I knew I had the breakthrough. Yeah, it's beautiful. There's more. Direct from the White House. To stark contrast between administration and conservative reporters never called on under Biden now have direct access to President Trump. Previously, it was dead and quiet. Now everybody's running around. It's crazy here. Real America's Voice reporting. Let's listen.
What is it? The good thing about being in the media here at the White House is you work with some really great people. And I mean that. People that not only do you like them on a personal level, but you respect them on the professional level as well. My next guest meets both those qualifications. Monica Page with Frontlines, Turning Point. You're on with them, a contributor as well. What does it mean to you to be here working? Because you were in the Biden administration. Yeah. You worked and covered the Biden administration. What was it like to be here with President Trump?
It's a stark contrast between what we're seeing in this administration versus the last administration. I mean, when I was in the previous administration, it was really hard for me to have access to the president. It was hard for me to even get called on in the press briefing rooms. Now both of us, we finally get called on. We finally get our answers, questions to our answers, and it's great. I mean, previously it was really tough because you would kind of walk around the White House. It was really quiet. It was really dead. There wasn't really many people here, and nobody was saying anything. We try to go to the back to talk to maybe just somebody to be like, hey, what's going on, guys? It's very sleepy. Now that's completely over. I mean, everyone's running around. It's always crazy here. It's a lot of fun.
Did you ever have a possibility to ask a question in those briefings?
No.
There's no way.
Not once. And I would stand in the back or I would sit in one of the empty seats because not every seat was taken. I mean, there were some empty spots throughout the entire, 7x7 grid. I would sit in the back and I'd still raise my hand, still try every single time, maybe the once a week briefing, every other week briefing. Never got called on once. And I tried. I went to the back. I was like, can I please speak to Karine Jean-Pierre's assistant? Can I get a meeting with the press secretary? No, she's too busy. My emails, letters, all thrown out or forwarded over and deleted.
So basically they were silencing conservative voices in that press room.
Completely, 100%. And I can attest to that.
Yeah. So what is it like now? We love it. We stand in that corner. Me, you, Daniel, and Wyatt, we all stay in that corner. What does it mean to you to be in a briefing room that you're actually getting called on and you have the opportunity to ask questions?
It's an honor. I mean, because you're not only representing the company that you're with, you're representing the American people. I mean, it feels great because I get messages, I'm sure you do too. Hey, do you mind asking this or somebody brings something to your attention? I would love to know an answer to this. I'm honored to be that person for the country, for our organization, asking the questions that really matter. We're not just asking just surface level questions. We're asking about policies. We're asking about decisions that are being made behind closed doors. How the White House is going to look in the future? What are we most excited about here? It's a glimmer of hope for not only us and our voice, but also the American people that really felt neglected, especially during the previous administration.
Do you have a special moment so far in this administration? We're not even 100 days in. It feels like we've been 100 years to a certain degree. Has there been any moments that have stood out so far?
Well, there's definitely a handful. I mean, even just to be here on the lawn on Pebble Beach here.
Yeah, real quick, let's show people the wrap. This is the backside of what you typically see. You see the front of the tents a lot of the times, but this is the back of the tents. So
it's beautiful.
We're taking you on the inside. That's what we're doing.
It's great. This beautiful view of the Eisenhower building.
Yeah, by the way, that's the Eisenhower building over there, which is where all the executive offices are. So not a bad place to work, but
red Tesla over here. I think it might be down a little more.
Yeah, I think he's charging it. So some big moments here, and we continue to cover it. And this administration has done so many things. I think 112 executive orders, or even counting right now.
Hard to name a favorite one. There's been so many good ones.
Yeah. What's the reception been to you from legacy media, people obviously maybe that don't particularly like the conservative voices?
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of feel the tension in the press briefing room, especially. You know, people kind of look at you a little bit funny, like, oh, why is Turning Point in the briefing room? Why do they deserve a spot? But really, the last administration bred this sense of elitism, where just because you're a mainstream media outlet, that means you're guaranteed a spot. And just because you're guaranteed a spot means you're definitely going to get called on. The rules are out the window now. If you're in there, you have a chance, actually, to get called on. So it's a really liberating feeling. It feels great. It feels like we're part of something bigger than ourselves. And I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what the next 3.5 years plays out for us.
So am I. And we got the fake news getting exposed. NPR was caught red-handed pushing pure fiction about Defense Secretary Hegseth, White House press secretary, obliterating their lies, calling total fake news based on one anonymous source who has no idea what they're even talking about. Here's the headline from NPR. White House is looking to replace Pete Hegseth as defense secretary. Yeah, this is fake news. As the president said this morning, he stands strongly behind the Secretary of Defense. And here we have the Secretary Bessent confirming what we've been saying. When I was on the other side of the wall, I never liked the term fake news. Now that I'm on the inside, I think the term fake news probably isn't strong enough.
They've written, when I was on the other side of the wall, I never really liked the term fake news. Now that I am on the inside and I can see what they're reporting, I think the term fake news probably isn't strong enough. It's really not. That they start with an a priori, they've written the story, and then they just kind of shape shift facts to back into it, because many of the stories that I've been involved with are just so far off. There was a story in the New York Times the other day that talked about 50% headcount decreases at the IRS. Nobody's talking about that. These were on background, these were not named sources, and they're just trying to stir tumult during taxpayer these were on background, these were not named sources, and they're just trying to stir tumult during taxpayer filing season.
Joe Rogan exposing the puppet masters that certain groups are encouraging and funding the public chaos. All this stuff is real. Well, they tell you protests are organic, the deep state's pulling the strings, and Mike Benz lays it out. Listen.
In their home for months. Yeah, there's no reason for it. And it's crazy how quickly it all boiled over. And it was all these events happening together at the same time, right? The COVID, the lockdowns, the anger. Everybody got real weird because everyone was just locked in their home for months at a time. And then the George Floyd thing and the public outrage and the people were on the street. And then people were encouraging it and funding it. There were certain groups that were encouraging it, organizing it, and funding it. And they got money from people to do it. And they had pallets of bricks that were conveniently located on the street. All that stuff's real.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, we saw it. It was remarkable to see it in real time.
That's why it's crazy having a guy like Mike Benz lay out how it all is going down. And you think, oh, it's all organic. People are fed up. No. No, there's a bunch of people that are profiting off of this.
Yes.
They want this to take place. They want to be able to push new laws through. They want to be able to grip tighter, tighter control on censorship. These social media companies have to pay. They're responsible for this. No, you fucking funded it. You fucking funded it with tax money that was filtered through NGOs, you cocksuckers. You guys are a part of this. You want this.
Tim Dillon tells Piers Morgan the blunt truth about the traditional media. They want to put people in boxes. While the dying legacy media cuts interviews to craft narratives, independent podcasters show the full conversations. Which do you trust to tell the full story?
I shared with this woman, I did an interview with CNN yesterday, and we sat down for an hour, and then they said, we're going to edit it and put out. I said, why don't you just put it out? Maybe put out a small clip of it on the internet, but put out the full hour. I had a great discussion with this woman, Elle Reeves, who's a great journalist. And I mean, she does all these Vice things and stuff. I'm sure people dislike her. But for me, I thought she conducted a very fair interview, and we had some very good exchanges. And I said, well, why in God's name would we? And of course, they're asking, well, why is Joe Rogan so popular? I said, well, number one, he's not editing his interviews. He's putting out a full interview.
Yes.
Why would you edit an interview? I sat here for an hour, and there's points that people are going to go, I don't think this guy's right. And then there's points where people are going to go, she's right. And then there's points where people are going to go, the hell with both of them, but put it out. And I think that's what
isn't
they're
that why,
still
Tim,
trying.
don't you think it's why? But don't you think it's why shows like yours are getting so popular? Why my shows become really popular? Why Rogan's so popular? Why? Because I think young people in particular, they're just done with feeling like everything's getting cut, edited, censored by a conventional media, which doesn't seem to really understand the power of just putting stuff out and letting people make their own minds up. In other words, by the editing process, you are deciding what people should see, what they should hear. They slash a 1 hour interview with you to a 10-minute interview. You have no control over what side of you is going to be put out there, and there's no more rounded view of Tim Dillon. There's just going to be what CNN or whoever it is decides the public should see of you. Whereas what I would much rather do is what we've done here, which is just have a chat for an hour, put it all out, and people, like you say, they can hear stuff they agree with, stuff they don't agree with, but they get a much more rounded sense of who you really are. A bit like Steve Bannon when he did your show or did mine.
Right.
I completely agree with you. He was...
So the free press that our founding fathers demanded is finally here. We have smashed the corporate media monopoly. Independent voices now broadcast from the White House itself. A new era of truth has begun. The people's media revolution has won. There's no going back. Look at that picture. Yeah, baby. In the White House. So the pattern is unmistakable. Taking another live look at our beautiful White House where I will be returning. There it is. Going back, baby. The gatekeeping is over. The walls are coming down. As Ivory Hecker reported, establishment journalists were less than thrilled to see a YouTuber like me with 2 million subscribers asking questions in the White House briefing room. But they can't stop what's happening. Monica Page, you heard her on Real America's Voice confirming what many suspected. When I was in the previous administration, it was really hard to have access to the president, hard to even get called on in the press briefing room. The contrast with today couldn't be clearer. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan, Tim Dillon are exposing how traditional media edits interviews to fill predetermined narratives. While Scott Bessent admits that fake news isn't strong enough to describe what he's seeing from the inside. So is this the dawn of a new era of journalism? Will the crumbling establishment find ways to silence the rising voices of truth? Drop a comment below. Share your support for the Next News Network in our efforts to go to the White House by visiting our merch shop, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. It's linked below. Dark Skull Driver. Defund NPR. Yes, baby. Defund it. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting topic to present when I saw that clip from Real America's Voice, and then, you know, coupled with our own efforts at the White House and Ivory's interview with me, I said, you know, we got to present this because a lot of people may not still really understand what is happening. And we've been toying with doing another massive fundraiser, trying to figure out the best way to do that, because these trips to Washington, D.C. are not, I mean, we never considered that in our budget. So this is all over and above, and we really need to raise some money, like a lot of money, like thousands and thousands of dollars to keep funding these trips. And so I'll be going next week. We want to send Tom back as well. And hopefully we can hire someone who can be on the ground constantly for us, reporting every day. That's something that we would like to do, is hire a permanent White House correspondent to help cut back on some of the back and forth and the travel. It is exhausting, especially when I go to the White House. I have to, you know, I'm there for the whole day. I'm filing reports all day. And then afterwards, I have to go right to the studio that we have rented, the space we have rented, and then do a whole show. So it's a very exhausting process. It's very costly. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love it. Like, even though I run myself ragged, it's like I'm just running on beef jerky and adrenaline. Like, that's it. Beef jerky, protein drinks, and energy drinks. That's what keeps me going when I'm at the White House. So anyway, stay tuned. We're going to keep going. But we definitely need some help in the financial department. So we'll keep you posted. But we got more news to get to. And we're going to talk more about some of these, what's crazy going on in the liberal meltdowns happening. The revolution always devours its own. And tonight we're witnessing a spectacular implosion of the modern left as their most radical voices drive away their most reasonable ones. Bill Maher, a lifelong liberal and sharp critic of conservatives, is now openly breaking ranks with the woke movement, saying something astonishing. I am one of them. They are not one of me. This isn't just one disgruntled commentator, it's the canary in the coal mine. Bill Maher is even saying bluntly that until we get rid of woke Democrats, Democrats will never win another election. So why is this happening now? And what does it tell us about the growing divide within the Democrat Party itself? Well, we're going to unpack these questions. And while the woke left fractures under the weight of its own radical ideology, millions of American men are experiencing their own physical decline due to plummeting testosterone levels. Just as Bill Maher exposed how one toxic element, wokeness, is splitting the Democrat Party, Sculpt Nation has identified one supposedly healthy food that's devastating men's testosterone levels nationwide. This common food item consumed by millions daily is scientifically proven to crush your energy, motivation, and muscle-building potential, much like how radical ideology has crushed common sense on the left. Discover what this testosterone-killing food is at sculptnation.com/NNN and reclaim your masculine vitality today. Link below. So America is under attack. The woke left with their purple hair and radical agenda are destroying our nation from within, and liberals have now been hijacked by extremists as cities burn, sports are corrupted, and parents are celebrated for hating their own identity. Let's dig deeper. Here is Charlie Kirk with Bill Maher. Never thought I'd see the day. Even liberal Bill Maher agrees with the U.S. with us that woke is destroying America, breaking from the left. Maher says he needs security protection from purple-haired jihadists who want him dead.
Because we have different jihadis that want to kill me. The purple-haired jihadis, the woke guys.
Well,
So
they kill me. They want to kill me just as bad.
probably.
Oh, they really do.
No, you've been very outspoken on the woke stuff. Big time.
Oh, yes. I mean, and they, just the way within a religion, they hate their own apostates more. I would say they hate me more because I'm supposed to like get on the short bus to Crazy Town with them, and I won't. And yet I'm still a liberal and still like you know, I mean, we probably could argue all day about Donald Trump and what he's doing, which I'm not down with. But, you know, it's always the people who are closest who think, oh, gosh, you shouldn't have, you're a traitor somehow.
I was going to ask, is it because they thought you were one of them and that...
I am one of them. They're not one of me. I'm okay. It's the liberals who have...
So they've left you, not you left
them. Yeah, well, I feel like there's... Liberal and woke are two completely different things. It was the theme of my last stand-up special that I just did a few months ago. And it's basically... I mean, it wasn't the whole special, of course, but it was a large part of it devoted to that, to proving that case that, you know, what liberals believe, woke is something completely different. It's very often the opposite of it. You know, liberalism is, let's live in a colorblind society. That's the goal. Woke's goal is, we see race everywhere.
Race obsession.
Yes. Okay. So that's not liberal. You change. Liberal is, there are two-state solution. Woke is river to the sea. Okay. So just don't take my word and say you're that. You took this and took it to, you got off the F train, you fell asleep, and you got off at 20 stops too far, and don't blame me for that.
We have different jihadis that want to kill me.
As he prepares to pour himself a shot of Tito's. Here's more from that. Another clip. Bill Maher joining our side on men and women's sports. The liberal comedian admits Democrats are handing Republicans every election.
Good on you for being a liberal that acknowledges male-female distinctions. What a concept, right?
Of course.
I mean...
Of all the low-lying fruit that the Democrats just, like, hand the Republicans to win elections, that's the one.
You know, it's so funny. I joked around with my team the other day. I said, are they really going to just let us win every national election on this no men and female sports thing?
Right.
Like, they can't surrender on this one issue.
It's so ridiculous.
It's a 90-10 issue.
Yeah.
There's 890 medals and trophies of men winning these competitions.
You lost Gavin Newsom on this. Okay? Take that as a hint, right? I mean, I think you were
I was the one that asked the question.
Right. Yeah.
Good on you for being a liberal that...
He says until we get rid of the woke, Democrats will never win. Bill Maher had more courage than pastors to stand against the woke mob.
Something. And we're on different planets, obviously, on the spiritual religious stuff. But when you spoke against the woke, that for me was a proving moment. And I have to say something, and this is 100% true. You had more moral courage than pastors that I know that went along with the woke crazy train. And you deserve credit for that because it was of high cost.
Until we get rid of that shit, they're never going to win another election.
I agree. They're not going to take political advice from me.
No, but they might from me.
They could.
And
they should. But
not the 10%, but that's 10%.
But they're very loud.
They're very loud, but that's it. And I, you know, as FDR once said, I welcome their hatred because they're just, first of all, they have no integrity. They don't ever present the full argument. They just cherry pick. I mean, everybody does it to everybody. So I'm not saying I'm unique here, but that is part of the problem of our discourse is that everybody just wants to forward their narrative. No one is really interested in the full truth. Just the truth. Just give me the truth. And that's the crowd I'm going for.
Bill Maher admits that Trump was real and authentic while meeting with him recently at the White House. Here's more on that.
This conversation, I voted for Obama, I voted for Clinton, but the idea that I could talk to them as freely as I felt this conversation was going is emblematic to me of why the Democrats lose the elections. Because they just don't feel that this is like a real person. And I know it's so weird to say that about Donald Trump, who I've said a jillion times is, you know, a whiny little bitch. I mean, I could go through my greatest hits of insults, but this was about getting past that and maybe seeing that if we met in person, we don't hate each other as much, and we don't. And I'm sorry, I'm not gonna pretend that's a bad thing.
No, it's how you heal.
And here we have some pure evil caught on tape. Progressive monster celebrating her white father's death. What?
That you had to go through that. Thank you. My dad is white. And I can't do anything about that Yeah.
There's nothing I can do.
Sorry, I'm going to fucking cry because
I can't do anything about that.
I hate that you had to go through that.
Thank you.
As somebody of white experience,
Thank you.
I know how bad it can be.
Thank you. But my mom is full on Asian. Like full.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
So
when my dad died, I cheered because I said that's one less white man.
Yeah.
That's how progressive I am.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I like talk about ally.
I said, get him out of here.
Get him out of here.
I said, take him away, Satan.
And that's kind of how it works, right? It's like if one white person dies and you say that, like a person of color kind of comes into the world.
Yeah. A diverse story gets elevated.
It's kind of like a spiritual experience.
I'm hoping.
Chat, this can't be real, right? That's how progressive I am. I cheered when my white dad died. I said, take him away, Satan. There's no way this is real, right? If so, God help us. And everyone wonders why the country said, we're done with that a few weeks ago.
Wow. No, I think that was real. Here we have David Hogg threatens to spend millions to primary Democrats who don't submit to their radical agenda. They want to purge anyone who won't go full communist. Can't even name one target, just wants to terrorize moderates into retirement. This is how the left operates.
Name. Well, who are some of the Democrats that you want to primary? Who are some of these people that you think deserve the Democrats to focus on them in their safe seats, $20 million worth?
Well, in particular, right now, what we're hoping with this effort is by announcing this, we can get a lot of them to decide not to run for office again so that this isn't necessary.
Give me one. Give me one name.
Well, I have to wait to see who retires out there because we don't want to pick unnecessary fights. But we're willing to do that if our approval rating continues to be at this rate, not to mention the fact, yes, we're planning on spending millions of dollars to ensure that we're getting Democrats that are simply, this is not a thing that is just about age. To be clear, there are older people who suck, as we just saw, and there are younger people who suck as well, and people of all ages. Unfortunately, that is not specific to age. We are here to find the most effective young people in our country, truly generational leaders, and replace people that are failing to meet the moment right now that we hope step aside. And in addition to that, we want our frontline candidates to win. Just yesterday, we gave the DCCC $100,000 as one of their biggest contributors this cycle. And that's because we're not just talking about challenging Democrats in safer seats. We want to support young people that are running in our frontline seats as well to get us into the majority in the first place.
Here we have some radical left agitators calling Trump's America fascist for deporting MS-13 gang members. These activists claim enforcing immigration law is white supremacy.
All of us here together today, all of you people who have come today, all of us who are here together, we are here doing something at a very pivotal juncture for humanity, really. And this is a pivotal juncture because fascism is moving very quickly in this country to consolidate. The case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man who was taken off the streets by ICE despite an order that said do not deport. The man who was deported to a torture prison in El Salvador, together with hundreds of Venezuelans who were also deported and put in a prison that it is no exaggeration to call a torture prison. This concentrates something now about the future forward for all of this society and, yes, all of humanity. And I say all of humanity because we are sitting inside of a country that has tremendous power in the whole world. And what's happening now with this fascist Trump regime is they are stripping basic rights, they are eviscerating the rule of law, they have a program of open white supremacy and hatred of women and hatred of LGBT people and hatred of immigrants and bullying of people around the world. And they want to go full steam ahead with it, and they are moving very quickly to be able to get in a position where nobody can
Keep screaming. When even liberals like Bill Maher are joining our side, you know the Great Awakening is here. The radical left has gone too far with their anti-white hatred, destroying women's sports, paralyzing our cities. Make sure you follow us on X for the truth they don't want you to see. So the pattern's undeniable. when Bill Maher, a lifelong liberal who still firmly identifies as such, starts agreeing with conservatives like Charlie Kirk about the insanity of biological males dominating women's sports, you know something profound has shifted. But it goes deeper than sports. He's even seen how the woke cult demands total allegiance, stating that he now requires security protection after breaking from their orthodoxy. He even admitted that meeting with Trump showed him that the former president is real and authentic. A rare moment of cross-partisan respect. Meanwhile, the radical fringe continues its descent into madness. Progressives celebrating their white fathers' deaths. Activists call enforcing immigration law white supremacy. Chicago burns while its mayor does nothing. So the question isn't whether the left is dividing, it's whether America will survive as moderates lose control to the extremists. Is this split exactly what we need to build a saner political landscape? And rep your common sense with some Next News gear at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com, linked below. Squeeze a lot, dropping $10. It says, keep up the good fight. Thank you. We will. Appreciate you guys. Big time. $158.75 and 2 new members tonight. And what a night it has been. Let's check in and see what the latest news is happening in the Next News feed. Christ is risen. The Ethiopian celebration there. San Diego's beach fire pits from removal. What? 130 people have signed the petition. Beach fire pits. Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller going off on the scam known as birthright citizenship. Michael Rappaport is now taking shots at Dave Smith and Joe Rogan. Not going to give him any oxygen. Pope Francis, of course, passing away today. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass proposes slashing over 1,600 city jobs to close the budget hole. President Trump continuing to back Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth after the Pentagon claimed the New York Times report about a Hegseth leak signal chats allegedly contain classified information shared with family members is false. Klaus Schwab officially stepped down as the World Economic Forum chair. Thank God. And average folks are saying they want that Maryland man, deported. Stay out. What else is going on in the world? China threatening to retaliate against nations siding with the U.S. on trade. Uh-oh. Joe Rogan says CNN is doing better, putting woke lunatic anchors on against Scott Jennings, that he makes them look retarded, which is good because, in fact, they are. Yes, they are. Never leave a child alone with a Democrat. That's why. What's going on with Scott Presser? Los Angeles voter registration recorder admits on its website non-citizens are registered to vote. Wow. Look at that. So what are you guys talking about in the chat room here? China is falling. Don't want any coffee. Coffee time. Handpicked by Juan Valdez. Scott is awesome. Overeducated. 2,000 likes tonight. Woohoo! Yeah, baby. That is awesome. 2,042 to be exact, as I can see on my side. Dark Skull Driver dropping $5 to celebrate that Klaus Schwab is gone. Craig also gifting a membership, and Willow's Verge receiving it. Thank you, Craig. Right on. Okay. That's a wrap tonight. Got more work to do. What a journey we've taken tonight on the Raw feed. Pull back the curtain on a world the establishment media desperately wants to hide from you. On this historic day 91 of President Trump's second term, we've seen how the deep state's 4-year war, actually like 10-year war, against him has backfired spectacularly. They tried to break him. Instead, they created a laser-focused president delivering exactly what he promised. Even Ann Coulter admits she's getting everything she voted for and more. We've witnessed potentially biblical events unfold before our eyes. Pope Francis dead, Klaus Schwab resigning on the same day, with 3 men named Peter now in the line for the papacy. St. Malachi prophecy speaks of one final pope, Peter the Roman, who will witness the destruction of Rome before Christ's return. Is this coincidence, or is this something far more profound? And Secretary Rubio has confirmed what we've been saying all along, that Trump is pursuing peace from a position of strength. The horror of Hamas has been laid bare. Ukraine's path to peace is being charted, and corrupt foreign aid programs are finally being scrutinized to ensure they actually serve American interests. The disgusting spectacle of a Democrat senator flying to El Salvador on your dime to sip margaritas with an MS-13 gang member shows just how far the left has fallen. While Americans are murdered by illegal aliens, Democrats prioritize foreign criminals. El Salvador's President Bukele checkmated Van Hollen with a brilliant I love chess moment that exposed the entire charade. Tonight, you also witnessed what Ivory Hecker calls a revolution in media. As the first independent YouTuber credentialed in the White House press corps, I am breaking barriers that once kept voices like ours out of the room. The establishment journalists may sneer and whisper, but they can't stop us from asking the questions they're too afraid to ask. This is what Ivory meant when she said, I went from fearing for the free press to seeing independent media rise to fill the gap. And Joe Rogan and other independent voices are exposing how chaos is orchestrated by elite interests and how traditional media edits reality to fit their narratives. And Scott Picent now admits that fake news probably isn't strong enough to describe what's happening in the corporate newsroom. And the emerging alliance between Elon Musk and Donald Trump has the globalists in panic as Musk lands rockets and exposes corruption through Doge. The system is striking back with fabricated lawsuits and smear campaigns, but their days are numbered. This show is only possible because of patriots like you. Your support keeps us on air when the forces of censorship try to silence us, so please consider donating at the links in the description to keep Next News alive. And don't forget to check out our merch shop at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com for exclusive Next News swag. And thank you to everyone who sent in super chats tonight, 163.75 and 3 new members. Your voice matters, your truth matters, and together we are going to take back this country one story at a time. Until next time, I'm Gary Franchi. This has been the Raw Feed. Good night, and God bless America.